Can you make yourself vomit?
Oh God, no.
No?
No.
Have you ever tried to like throw your
This
finger
was
in?
even then I was trying.
Really?
Like I was in the fucking
So no gag reflex? Just
mental noting. Okay, check. Learning about Craig, that's all. Just making notes for later.
Save that one for later.
It was weird.
I'm always concerned when you're like 10 seconds of silence and I'm like, don't breathe.
Right.
Because I'm like a heavy mouth breather and I'm over here like, you're just going to get this undertone of...
It's so freaking funny. Steph is exactly the same way. For years and years and years, she goes, I'm like, okay, we got to do silence. She's like,
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I literally don't breathe.
right? And then I'm sitting there watching the clock the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like waiting and waiting, 10 seconds. And then finally she's like, oh my God, I can finally breathe.
That's exactly how you're like, all right, 10 seconds of silence. And I'm like...
Right.
Because
if you're prepared for a breath hold, then you're like, oh, I can do 10 seconds.
Yeah, no problem.
So then just randomly out of nowhere,
just like
somebody's
stop.
like, hey, we need to
seconds.
be quiet for 10 seconds. And we're like,
That's all I'm concerned about is I'm just going to go. So you on to like mouth breathing, right?
okay.
When I had my gym, we would record all these videos and like, here's what we're doing and showing, really hitting the social media stuff, right? And I am a mouth breather, and I'd have my camera out there, and I'd watch the video, and you could hear me.
Hear the fucking monster in the background.
Yeah, just struggling to get oxygen. Just
you had a bunch of shit this year with your sinuses and stuff, and
oh man,
how's all that?
I mean, I've had my whole face, like the idea that like humans, and I think we talked about this before, like always evolving, right? Like we're always kind of. I think I'm de-evolving,
okay,
right? Because
makes
like,
sense.
Yeah,
it's usually how it happens.
Yeah, right. I'm the. We're not going down that path again, right? The mutation that doesn't pan out to move the species forward. I'm allergic to everything. So I did start, and I've done this before. Like I've done allergy shots before. I'm back on them to really try to help me with that. I've had my septum done like 3 times now. Right?
What do they do in that process?
They literally take a Dremel and they just shove it in your nose all the way back to your brain. It's like a half a lobotomy. And they basically it's an auger, right? And they drill out all your sinus cavities.
Fuck that.
Yeah, well, what happens, and that's not exactly what they do, right? It's similar. Where
are you going to get this procedure done?
Go to El Salvador. He steps on my forehead.
It's only $20. It's a great deal.
Yeah, it's a great deal. Yeah, it's a little sensitive, for a while. But the walls of your septum will start to touch, and then it inflames, and that creates it's harder to breathe and stuff like that. So they go out and they just like, with a melon scooper and just start scooping out parts of your sinus cavity. But I've had that done numerous times and it just keeps getting bad. And then of course, like I've had my nose broken a couple times, so that doesn't help it in any way. And then I found out I had asthma. Like I always kind of knew I had, I'm a fat guy, right? Like
fat guys don't have asthma necessarily.
It's not a thing?
No.
Oh.
I mean, they definitely mouth breathe and
Yeah.
You want my take on asthma?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to you whether you want it or not, right? I think there's a lot of things in the world that we have that are like autoimmune diseases, autoimmune issues, I think fall under this same category where they are things that the body does because it's trying to manage the emotional energy or the emotional stuff, the baggage. It's trying to hold on to and maintain all the emotional baggage that it's trying to carry. And I think asthma falls under that category as well. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. Obviously, you're not listening to this podcast for medical advice.
Yeah. Please don't.
Right? Don't.
A lot of people go to college for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're called doctors.
Yeah. There's some people out there that definitely know what they're talking about in some regards. I am just sciencing the hell out of this.
You're like, I think.
Right. I think.
Yeah.
I think. Because I think I've heard stories where it's like, I don't know. I guess I don't know that much about asthma.
Yeah, I went to therapy and my asthma got better.
It could happen.
It could. I mean, listen, there are crazy things in the world. Therapy could fix.
Right? Because asthma is like in some ways there's an inflammation of something, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a closing of your airway and all those kind of different things.
Yeah, like the little bronchi or the broccoli in your lungs.
Right.
Right. They get inflamed and they stop absorbing oxygen in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I as a kid, I knew I had I knew I had exercise induced asthma. Right. So I wouldn't just be sitting there and all of a sudden be like have an asthma attack. But if I started trying to breathe heavy, that would inflame my lungs and it made it harder to breathe. And I just thought I just sucked for a long time. And I tried an inhaler and this and that. And then when you go to the Marine Corps, you can't have, that's not a thing, right? You have to have a really clean bill of health. So when I showed up, and this is, again, we are past, right? I think the statute of limitations is gone now, but they're like, hey, can you bring in your medical record? And I was like, sure. And I brought in a physical from football.
When you were 16.
Yeah, some shit like that. It was literally just a sheet of paper in a manila folder. And I was like, here's my medical records. And the recruiter looked at me and he was just like, no, your whole medical record. I was like, yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And they were just like, all right. And that was it. I had been unconscious from head injuries. I'd had numerous surgeries. I knew I had asthma. I had all this other, and I was like, no, man, had a physical. Look at me.
I was cleared for football when I was 17. So I'm
Doc
pretty
held
good.
my nuts, said it was good. So I knew I had exercise asthma then. I definitely struggled with it while I was in the Marine Corps. I was never a fast runner. And that all sucked. And then when I got out, I was like, yeah, this still, I owned a CrossFit gym and still struggled with this. And I would in really good, cardiovascular shape and still just be miserable. I can't breathe. So when I was doing my allergy testing this past year, they're like, it's the Allergy and Asthma Center. And they're like, and my wife, who I love to death, she's like, yeah, my can't breathe. And I was like, well, it's because I'm just fat, the weight of my chest, I don't know. I'm trying to kill myself with calories. And they were like, nah, this doesn't sound normal. Let's do a test. And I was like, all right. So they get this computer out and put this thing in your mouth and, hey, big breath out, right? And I was like, all right. And there's these two lines, you got to get your line in here. And I'm way below the line. And she's like, all right, that happens. Let's try again. Now you know what it's like, give it another rip. And I was like, all right. So I tried real hard and I got closer to I was still below the lines. And I was like, all right. Ooh, give me this thing, right? And I put this thing in my mouth and I start blowing out as hard as I can. And then my wife and the nurse are holding my arms. They're like, you okay? I was like, yeah, what happened? And they're like, you passed out. And I was like, no, I didn't. And they're like, 100%. They're like, all of a sudden, Jamie, my wife is just like, big man's going down. Just, and I still didn't get in the line. Failed. And the nurse is just like, yeah, so the doc's gonna come talk to you. I was like, all right. And they gave me a daily use inhaler to help with my lungs, and I've got a rescue inhaler, and I should take it more. It's better when I take it. Science.
So we're going to perform a test.
Okay.
We're going to do, because bravemendare, we're going to do, this is going to be, I think we're recording episode 5 or something like
That's
that,
what
right?
I think,
So
yeah,
it's
5,
the very
yeah.
beginning of the podcast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we're going to go on a journey together.
An asthma journey?
An asthma journey where you are, I'm telling you, you don't get an option, right? I'm telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to be open to letting me assist you in the healing process of your asthma so that we clear it all up and you are able to finally breathe freely without asthma.
I think you just want to watch me pass out a year from now when I try the asthma testing.
It's all going to be jiu-jitsu based. It's basically, I'm just going to put you in rear naked chokes until you
just focus on breathing. There's no blood in my brain. Do your best. Have you tried shrimping?
You just need to get up, dude.
Yeah,
That's
just
all.
get up. Yeah,
Just get up, boy. Come on.
So the idea now, I'm down because I like science, right? So I'm not going to use my inhalers.
Okay.
Right. I think an automatic fail for the test is if I die.
Agreed.
Okay.
I just want
to. We got to
not
set scientific method. We got to set parameters.
Okay.
Right.
That's good.
And then we'll talk. We'll discuss. We'll do some. We'll try and find my inner child. Right. Maybe my pain cave or whatever that is from.
Pain cave?
Yeah. All I think about is anytime you're like your inner. I just think of the penguin from Fight Club.
Find your cave.
Yeah. Find your cave.
Little spirit animal.
Yeah. Spirit animal.
Because asthma is connected to your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's I wish Steph was in here. I wish I could holler at her. She's in the shower right now, but there's.
You could. She might not answer.
Or just sit here and scream for 15 minutes. Mom! Bring me a grilled cheese!
The meatloaf! What is she doing? The meatloaf.
Okay.
Okay. The lungs.
The lungs. There is. It's
the lung bone
I want
is
to say
connected
it's
to.
Doreen. It's not Doreen Virtue. I'm going to actually get on Google. Yeah, there's some lady.
Okay.
She's
There's a lady who has some lungs. And
oh my God, this will fucking take us down a rabbit hole that we'll never get out of. Anyways,
anyways,
we're going to do an experiment.
Okay.
We're going to do some work on your lungs. So it's going to be because it's connected to stuff.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Like
my trachea.
Yeah.
My
I mean, if we look at it all just through the physical lens, right,
Yeah.
then you're going to approach it all from that perspective,
yeah.
which is what's going on, right? They're like, take this, breathe this. You're just going to have to deal with this the rest of your life. But there's a whole other side to it. There's a whole other side to what could possibly be going on and what it could be connected to. So there's always going to be correlation and connection. So your lungs specifically are going to have some correlation and connection to some emotional thing. And it's not necessarily like something that took place in your past or something like that, but they're going to have correlation and connection. So we have like a book, and again, I can't remember any of this, and this is terrible because it's like the biggest cliffhanger ever that nobody really gives a shit about.
We could flash it.
We could.
Yeah,
I won't because I'll forget.
Yeah,
right when it comes time to edit this episode, I won't even fucking remember. What were we talking about?
I love watching like YouTubes and stuff, like right here, and then nothing happens, and you're like, yeah, dude, you totally spaced on that. I do appreciate when they get it though.
It is nice,
right? Because I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
We're not even going to try this time.
No, okay, let's.
But it is. It's in our fucking house. I should go get it. It's probably hidden behind this drape somewhere. Anyways, it's going to be connected to something. Because it's not to say that everything is psychosomatic.
Yeah.
Because that's not necessarily what it is, right?
Yeah.
But there is a lot of stuff. Like the placebo effect is real thing.
100% a thing, yeah.
Right? So, like, I think about this a lot where there's good and bad things about this quality that I have where I don't go to the doctor very often. I don't get sick very often. I get hurt,
playing pickleball
pretty frequently, right?
Yep.
I've definitely got another pickleball injury right now, but it tends to, our body knows what to do when it comes to the healing process, right?
Yeah.
And so unless I've got like a compound fracture and something sticking out of my body, like I tend to be like, my body will take care of this. I'll figure this out. I'll heal this. This will take care of itself.
Is that the way that you think about that?
It is the way that I think about it. And it's kind of the way that I've thought about it my whole life.
I get that.
And I'm fucking healthy. Like, do you know what I mean?
I mean,
shit heals.
You keep straining your calf.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, that's a different story. That's trying to make peace with the fact that I'm 43 years old or something. And my body's like, dude, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
You're trying to play pickleball with fucking 21-year-olds. It's not going to happen. You got to like stretch before you come out on this court.
The first time you strained your calf, were you playing with a bunch of old people?
Listen, fucking asthma motherfucker. Do you need your inhaler right now? Do I need to call somebody? You're laughing a lot. Are you going to be all right?
So I agree.
I
agree that your body knows what to do. It knows how to heal itself. It's gonna fix. Like when you break a bone, even if you don't set it, for the most part, it'll fix itself, right?
Right.
You occasionally see the crazy like videos of the guy who broke his arm but never said it, and he's just got a nunchuck now for an arm.
Well, we've got the guy in Jiu-Jitsu that, fucked up his shoulder, and now his left arm is just slowly shrinking.
Oh yeah,
because he drunk it and fucking all
right.
the...
His whole bicep and everything is smaller. Yeah. So I agree that your body knows what to do. Here's the reason why I now go to the doctor when I tend to hurt myself. And I feel like I know that I have a relatively high pain tolerance. So when something happens, I'm like, cool. Is this like a big deal, or am I just being like a pussy, right? Like, I don't know what it is. What is this? Like, did I break something, or am I just sore and just being a big baby about this whole thing, right? And I have now learned that it tends to be a bigger issue, and it's not just me being a big baby about it. I mean, when I had my neck, so for anybody who doesn't, I had to have a disc in my neck replaced in November 2 years ago.
You're pointing up front there.
No, yeah.
Is this where it's at? Or
no, because they go
like...
through the front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but it's part of your...
It's part of your spine.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a fake piece of metal in my neck, right?
Okay.
Shows up on x-rays. It's really fun to go through the airport because occasionally there'll just be a dot right here, and they're like, what the... And I'm like, yeah, I got fake stuff. But I had shoulder surgery in 2020, and sometime after that, I started getting some pains in my forearm, and it was around right here, which is like your ulnar nerve. And I started looking into it, and it can happen when you have shoulder surgery. They can do something that's like a locked in ulnar nerve kind of pain. And I just assumed it was that. And I kept going, and it just kind of kept getting worse, and it kept getting worse. And I would drive and like try to rub my forearm on like the door panel of my truck, trying to like massage it out. I would have like the Theragun and all that stuff, and like scraping, trying to do anything I could to get this pain to go away in my arm. And then finally, I was on a trip. I was up in Madison, Wisconsin. We're at the CrossFit Games for work, and I am walking around the vendor village like, who's got CBD? Anything. What do you got, man? I've got TENS units on. I'm putting CBD, aloe vera, essential oil rubs. I'm like, you got some lavender? Fucking let's go, man. Who's got some tussin? Let's soak this motherfucker in tussin.
Windex. I need some
Don't
fucking
get
Windex.
I am trying anything. And it's only getting worse, right? Like the pain is physically starting to make my day and my work day worse. To the point that when we left Madison, Wisconsin, we drove to Milwaukee, and I could not, it was so painful I couldn't function. To the point that I like walked into the like gift shop thing, and I was like, what do you got? And she's like, we got Tylenol. I was like, I'll take everything you have. And I bought like 6 packs of like travel Tylenol. I was like, I'm just going to take these. Like, I don't care. I have to do something to get rid of this, because this pain is becoming, we are quickly approaching unbearable.
Just go to your cave. Think of the penguin.
Dude, I was fucking penguin. Slide. I just went to the bar, and I was like, hey,
I know what's going to fix this.
Yeah, I know what's going to fix this. I was like,
give me a blowjob.
Yeah, well, that's... It might have. We didn't try that. Science. We got to try that next time. Not us, but
it's for science.
How's your calf doing?
I don't know. It still hurts.
Listen, for some people that might be the thing.
So did you get drunk?
So I did. I was like, hey, just give me a triple.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't care. What can you pour me? And I just straight vodka, just like, which, and I just did that, and I still just so miserable. Flew home, drove home, probably shouldn't have. And I woke up at 6 o'clock that next morning in tears, like on the ground in tears. I could not do anything, and was super thankful. We have family nearby. My stepdad, Dave, came, pick me up, took me up to Knoxville, went to the doctor. And the doctor walked in, and I'm like, you can see where I'm just exhausted from crying. And I point at it, and he's like, yeah, your neck's broken. And I was like, no, my arm. And he's like, yeah, your neck's broken. And I was like, what? and 6 weeks later had a disc replaced in my neck, and they did like a micro something or another to the other, because it was this huge issue with the vertebrae or the discs in my neck. They were all inflamed and broken and exploded or something.
What was it? Can you chalk it up to anything? Do you remember what happened? It was just one of those fucking things.
One of those things. My mom and my grandfather have like degenerative disc disease. So my mom's got a few vertebrae fused. My grandfather had numerous sections of his spine fused from just his disc just dissolving. And so maybe, right? I'm a little young to find all that stuff out, but you can already see where like there's different sections of my spine that's already starting to happen. And I remember I grabbed the doctor by like the coat and I like pulled him in. I'm like all gowned up in the waiting, or like getting ready to go into surgery. And I was like, if I wake up and my neck is fused, I'm going to be really angry. And the doctor was just like, okay, man. Like, yeah, dude. And Jamie, my mom and my wife, the doctor came out when they finally got me done, sweating and just like physically a wreck. And he's like, yeah, he's like, we did it. They had to strap my arms to the table and then pull my arms down so that they could get low enough into my spine because they go through the front. And to get in there, they had to pull my arms down so my shoulders would drop enough so my spine would come up enough. And like I woke up and I was like, it feels like you ripped my arms off and beat me with them. He's like, that's basically what we did.
How long ago was this?
That was September 21st, 2022. Oh, wow. So literally 2 years ago. And then Jamie Jamie said that the injury happened from jiu-jitsu. That's not true.
Yeah, definitely. No injuries ever happen from jiu-jitsu.
Especially,
it's the safest fucking sport. I don't want to hear this bullshit about people getting hurt in jiu-jitsu.
No,
it's not a real thing.
It's not. No, just stand up.
Especially neck and shoulder injuries.
No,
those aren't common.
Yeah,
that's just. If anything, you might hurt a foot or a toe or
a toe. You stub a toe,
exactly,
right? Because normally mats are elevated.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are common.
Not
little mat burn, right? Yeah. Little MRSA, no big deal.
So you don't think it's from jiu-jitsu?
No, it totally could be from fucking jiu-jitsu.
It's 100% from fucking jiu-jitsu.
I don't need your...
I'm constantly...
You shut your mouth.
I wish, you should probably not be practicing jiu-jitsu anymore.
So I literally had surgery, and then he was like, all right. And then I love doctors, especially like Tennessee doctors, right? Because they understand the population that they're working with, but at the same time, they're like medical doctors, right? So I have surgery on the 21st. I go back like a couple days later for my first checkup. And then like 3 weeks later, I go back in and I'm like, all right. I was like, so what can I do? He's like, you can't. And for literally 2 months, I couldn't pick anything up more than a gallon of milk. He was like, that's the heaviest thing you're allowed to pick up. He's like, and if you're thinking about it, the answer is no. I was like, all right. He's like, because otherwise it'll just ruin everything. You got to give this thing to set. Like glue's got to dry.
It's pretty major fucking surgery.
And I was like, it'll be fine. I took 3 days off work. It was like, no big deal. But we go through this process, and I was like, all right, well, can I shoot? And he was like, what kind of shooting? And I was like, what kind of shooting can I do? And he's like, you can shoot a small pistol and a 22. And I was like, all right. He's like, no hunting. And I was like, I can't deer hunt? He's like, no. And he's like, because if you shoot a deer, then you have to move the deer. And the deer weighs more than a gallon of milk. I was like, that's a solid point. I was like, and he's like, besides, rifles are probably about as much as, I was like, what about a small rifle? Like, I got little ones, right? And he was like, no, you can shoot a pistol. I was like, all right, fine. And then he said November 5th, he's like, hey, you can start to slowly work back into some physical activity a little bit. You can go a little heavier than a gallon of milk, but slowly. And I went to jiu-jitsu that night. So, yeah, I'm still fine.
Does it feel good still for the most part?
I don't have any feeling in the tips of these 3 fingers.
Okay. So everything's coming along well then?
Well, yeah. I dropped milk a lot. And this is I go to grab it out of the fridge and I don't know how hard I'm squeezing. And then I'll literally whoop and it falls and hits the ground. And I'm like, oh, damn it. So
you definitely have some nerve damage.
Definitely have some nerve damage. And I felt bad. Like I kept looking at the doctor every time I went back and I was like, hey, so I still can't feel. And he's like, just give us some time. And the last time I went in, he's like, yeah, man, some shit just don't come back. And I was like, cool.
We could do it.
Yeah.
We could fix it.
We can heal my asthma.
And your nerves.
And my nerve,
yes,
the loss of sensation.
You'll be able to lift gallons of milk again.
That's right.
With these,
and I'll be able to touch it. So yeah, lots of injuries.
I did when I got my vasectomy. That was my game plan too, was to get drunk. I came home and just put ice on my balls and started drinking beer.
Really?
And I was like, that's what I'm going to do, because I'm not a fan of like pain medication.
Yeah,
I don't really like taking medication in general.
Yeah.
I think this is a whole thing of like,
hang on a minute. So you don't like the idea of taking pain medication, but the idea of sitting down and just getting drunk.
So much better.
So
so much easier. Right. Makes so much more sense.
I mean,
I think there's a thing with men that, obviously we're stupid at times.
100% dumb.
And I think that this whole thing of like, oh, my body can heal itself and I don't get hurt. And if I get hurt, it'll fix itself. All of these kind of things. I've never done a good job of keeping it in some sort of like healthy balance.
Yeah.
I went way over to the far end where it was like, I'm just never going to the doctor for anything.
Ever
even when
again.
I like totally need to go to the doctor for stuff.
Your arm's just hanging and you're like, no, it'll get better. I wrote some sage on it.
I think the worst ones, I had two really bad injuries they weren't back to back. They were probably years apart from each other, but in my mind, they were both, I think, that's the other thing too, right, is I can't remember shit. I have a hard time remembering what happened last week, but
right. I don't even know what I did yesterday.
It was my left ankle. I rolled it real bad in basketball one time, jumped up for a rebound and came down, and my ankle just went whoop. And so that thing swelled up really, really big and got really, really bad. And it looked like it was fucked, right?
Okay.
And we went to, that was one time where Steph's like, you're going to the ER.
You're
like,
going
baby, I don't need to go to the fucking doctor for this.
Your foot's the size of a watermelon, and you're like, it'll be fine.
I always have this plan where I'm like, I know what they're going to say. I know what they're going to do. I already know what happens if we go there.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
Elevate
exactly what happened. And they went, and I don't even think they did x-rays.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember. They might have done x-rays.
Did you go to a witch doctor?
It was the same guy that...
Was it the dragon lady?
No. It was a legit hospital. And I don't remember if they did x-rays or not. They might have, they might not have. That's funny, I can't remember. Anyways, they gave
Normally x-rays are like a
pretty
thing.
important. Right?
Yeah.
They gave me some stupid ass fucking boot thing that was a joke.
Yeah.
And sent me home with some, I don't even think it was, ibuprofen 800s or something like that.
Motrin 800.
So I was like, fuck that. And then a couple of years later, I fell down our stairs and definitely did something to my leg. Like it was bad. There was a dent in my shin. Like it was very much, you have a nice little concaved dent in my fucking shin because I fell down the stairs at night and like went into the darkness. And what
did Steph push you?
No, it was the funniest thing.
If she did,
dude.
it's okay.
It was back when our boy was, how old was he? He was probably like 14, 15 years old.
Did
maybe
he
13.
push you?
And it's like 12 o'clock at night. And I wake up and I think I'm going to the bathroom or something like that. And then as I'm coming back to the bedroom, I can see a faint light coming from the stairs.
Is this what faint lights do?
This is what faint light looks like, right? It looks exactly like that. So I can see a twinkling light. And his room's in the basement. And so I thought he was downstairs playing PlayStation.
And you're like, motherfucker.
Right? I'm like, oh, it's on. This motherfucker thinks he's going to be up.
Burn him.
He's going to be up on a school night playing PlayStation in my house.
In my house?
Fuck that. So I creep over to the stairs and I look and I still think I can see the light. So I go to creep down the stairs because my plan is like, oh, this PlayStation is ours now. Yeah. You're losing the TV.
Oh, yeah.
You're fucking grounded. This is going on. And instead of what happens, because I'm half asleep, I fall. So I take the first step and completely miss it and just fall out into space. And then halfway down the stairs is like, because I just tip and fall right down the stairs, right? Land. What makes contact first, what breaks my fall is my
your
shin,
which is, you know.
And the stairs are wooden stairs because we don't have carpet on them or anything. So I just fall, smack my leg, slide face down the rest of the way to the bottom of the fucking stairs. He's asleep. He is not playing.
Not anymore.
No, he wasn't even playing. He was sound asleep. We just want to pause real quick and thank you for tuning in and listening to Brave Men Dare. We'd like to ask you to do 3 simple things for us. First and foremost, just subscribe wherever you're listening, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of the other places you can find podcasts. By subscribing, you're going to help the podcast reach more people. Also, feel free to rate the show. Give us 5 stars if you're enjoying it. And last but not least, send an episode to a friend. All of these things are going to help the podcast reach more people and help us continue to bring you episodes week after week. Be sure to come follow us on social media as well. You can find us everywhere by searching Brave Men Dare. Now let's get back to the episode. So everybody, because it's loud as fuck.
I can only imagine.
Right?
Here's
Craig falls down the fucking
Craig
stairs.
falling down some wooden stairs.
Everybody wakes up.
Often, it was
horrible. So they're like, oh my God. Because I'm laying like ass up down at the bottom of this fucking stairs. And I'm like, I'm okay. So I get up and I hobble back up the stairs and I go to the bathroom because suddenly I realize this all after the fact, but I start to get nauseous because my fucking body's going into shock. And so I'm in the bathroom standing there trying to piss. And I'm like, I think I might pass out. I'm like, oh, this is pretty bad pain. This is pretty significant. And then I just go to bed and lay down. And Steph's like, I'm like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine, baby.
Yeah.
And they're like the next morning, a legit significant fucking dent in my fucking shin.
There's no chance that you might have hit your head.
I don't think...
And giving yourself a concussion,
I don't think
maybe, and that made you feel a little woozy?
I don't think it was because I've had concussions before.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that feeling.
Okay.
It was very much the feeling of like shock.
Yeah.
And I've only ever had that feeling a handful of times.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like I've never...
The concuss thing, that's a pretty common...
Well, that's a different feeling.
It is a different feeling.
That sensation of having a concussion and kind of losing, and that feels way different.
Yeah, it's a fuzzier...
Shock. When your body goes into shock, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like it's your fucking nervous system just going like... Fucking throw up.
Yeah.
I hated it. Yeah. I didn't throw up though.
Well, there you go.
How do you deal with this is a good question. How do you deal with throwing up?
It does.
Is that a thing for you?
Oh yeah. So JB hates this because I think it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Like it happens, right? The first time we were ever really like hanging out, we went out. We were in California. We went out to In-N-Out. We ordered some food, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, I was like, I think I'm just really. I was like, my stomach's not feeling great. I was like, I think I'm really hungry. And she's like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm just really hungry. So we order our food and we're sitting down, we get it, and I get like a double animal style. I'm like, and I'm chewing on this thing. I get halfway down and then I look at it, I was like, I don't think that was it. And I just get up and walk to the bathroom and go, yak, and just throw up a whole bunch, come back, and I'm like, yeah, it wasn't hunger. I don't think I feel well. Like my stomach's unhappy. I might have shit my pants while I was puking. So let's.
So I'm going to need another round.
I'm going to need. Yeah. Let's get this to go.
Milkshake. Can I get a milkshake?
Can I get a milkshake to go? Because later I might want that. And so that's really the way that I've handled. Like I'm the puke and rally kind of guy. Like I just like walk over. Like I'll be right back. And like just walk over and just. Blah.
See, you're an anomaly to me. I do not understand that. I am wired in such a way where you could be like, you can either throw up and this will fix everything.
Yeah.
Or we could cut off a finger. But take a fucking finger.
Take a finger.
Take
Craig's
a
just walking around.
Finger.
All right, everybody. Just no more fingers.
The last thing I will do is throw up.
Really?
It's very strange. And I reckon like it's a thing.
Do you just not like the sensation of puking, or is it like the act? Like, because it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks.
I mean, I feel like taking a finger would be a bigger deal.
By the way, this is great podcasting.
This is the top.
This is what people want to know about when it comes to Craig and Ben, right? How do they handle vomit?
Well, but there's two different. Everybody holds things differently. We used to tell people on helicopters because you don't know you get like motion sick or air sick like that until you're sitting in the back of a 110-degree helicopter in your entire like kit. You've got your helmet, your flak, your gun, you got all your stuff. There's 20 of you. You can't see what you're doing, and that helicopter's just fucking yanking it, right? Like, of course. I'm not saying for anybody who's ridden in the back of a helicopter, we 100% do that shit intentionally because why the fuck not?
Right? What else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do, right? And all my helicopter friends, to all of my Marine helicopter friends or anybody who I know that was in a helicopter that was in the Marine Corps with me, comment. Like, do you remember it? Because I remember we used to look at people and I would give them the brief, like, hey, we're going to get on. You're going to go here. You're going to sit down. You're going to put your seatbelt on. If you get sick, do not puke on my helicopter. You pull your shirt out. You put your head down. You vomit. And you are fine. Do not puke on my helicopter. And somebody, I remember with this young guy, looks at me and he's like, is it a big deal if they puke on the helicopter? I was like, yeah, man, I got to clean that shit up. Like, I don't want to deal with that fucking shit. It's gross. And he's like, so why do you make them puke in their shirt? I was like, so it's not on my helicopter. And they're like, will they do that? I was like, oh, 100%. I was like, they don't know any better. For all my other Marines, I apologize for all these terrible things I've done. But you just like, and then you'll be yanking and banking, and you see somebody and they do. They just pull their shirt out and they vomit on their stomach, right? And they just like, all right, I'm good now. And then they have to get off the helicopter and run and go like run and gun and shoot and stuff. And you just fucking vomit, just falling out of their shirt. It's just sitting around their belt line because their shirt's all tucked in.
Oh, God.
And it's just miserable, right? But we used to have, and it's funny because like people, even pilots, like I've totally worked with pilots who get motion sick, and like they'll just be going around. All of a sudden they're like, "Ooh, hey, you take the controls for a minute," and you can see like they're pale. People who will try to who want to fly in helicopters, and just like they'll try to get over it. We had this guy Glenn. I don't think he ever eventually got over it. But he got to a point where he could like kind of muscle through it on an easy flight. But if you're like, hey, we're going to go turf, which is like you're yanking and banking around terrain, he'd be like, no, man, I'm not in. And it took him a dozen times, I think, just to get the qualification so he didn't have to do it anymore.
Wow.
So he could like get the stamp on the training exercise that I can do this, right? But like Glenn, you got to make it through a whole flight, man, without vomiting. And he's like, I'm trying real hard. I'm like, I know you are, man. We keep putting you on the schedule. Like
yeah, some people just have that motion sickness thing.
They do, right? Some people don't, right? Yeah. But vomit. Back to vomiting.
Yeah, I will, like I said, and it comes from childhood. There's something, again, I'm always like, I mean, back to like the asthma thing, I'm always looking for like the thing underneath the thing.
So what's the thing that makes you vomit?
It's not what makes me vomit. It's they're vomiting in my silly brain somewhere, like the wires got crossed and confused with like, it's not like a sign of weakness. I'm not looking at it like I'm a weak thing, right? It's not a sign of weakness, but suddenly I'm vulnerable.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm in a vulnerable state where it's like I don't have control of my body. It's this uncontrollable thing that takes over. And it's not like, I'm gonna, I just have a little bit of vomit. I just need a tissue. I'm going to be all right. It's a whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's the whole thing.
That's the hard part about vomiting.
It sounds like I'm yelling.
Oh, yeah.
When it happens. It's horrible.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like I have, like, strained my back.
Yeah.
Vomiting.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole body, like, your body is, like, there is badness inside me, and I need it gone.
Yeah, and it's good. Like, it's a fucking normal thing.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you think about the animal kingdom and the like, you know, you see a dog. Dogs are just like, I threw up, I'm fine, lick my asshole, I'm going to move on with the day, right?
The word,
yeah.
Start, you're like, oh, God.
So I'd say, I think it's, like, this isn't me being like, stop throwing up, people, it's dangerous. No, I need to get over this. But it's been part of when I do mushrooms, and when I go into like the real, because sometimes I'm doing mushrooms to like sit out on the porch and watch the trees and just fucking relax. And then there's times where I'm like, I'm going to do some work.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some mushrooms. We're going to go on a journey. I got some shadow I need to look at. And there was one trip one time where it was like all I could do. I was trying to throw up. I knew that I needed to release whatever was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. Like, it was like, I'm literally at the toilet.
Like, you like, I want to do this.
Salivating.
Can you make yourself vomit?
Oh God, no.
No?
No.
Have you ever tried to like throw your
This
finger
wasn't, even then I was trying.
Really?
Like, I was in the fucking.
So no gag reflex? Just
mental noting. Okay, check. Learning about Craig, that's all. Just making notes for later.
Save that one for later.
It was weird. It was weird. I tried so freaking hard. And like every now and then when I get back into those spaces with psychedelics or with mushrooms or something like that, it will kind of creep into the back of my mind. And I'm like, yeah, for whatever reason, I'm not dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't even remember the last time I threw up.
Really?
Yeah, years.
I don't remember the last time I did. I don't remember the last time I threw up. I think one of my favorite throw up stories was when Jamie and I started dating. Birthdays aren't a big deal in my, like, we celebrate birthdays, but like your age isn't like a big deal. It's not like oh, it's your birthday today. Happy birthday. There's a present somewhere, or we'll go get you something. And there's a cake, right? Not a lot of birthday parties or stuff like that. Jamie is much more along the lines of it's a big deal, right? It's a whole production. It's your birthday month, like all this stuff, right? And we're like, okay, cool. When we met, I think I was like 4 months away from. We met in March and my birthday's in July, right? So yeah, we're 4 months away. And I had just said like, yeah, I'm 30, right? Just rounding. It's not a big deal in my world, right? Rounding. Yeah, just rounding up to the next birthday. And this wasn't a big deal in my world, right? And she was 31. And I was like, all right. Well, then she has a birthday in May, so she became 32.
She's older than you, right?
She's older than me, yeah.
I guess I was going to ask you when her birthday is. And I mean, if we should probably, you can tell me off air. We don't need to divulge our wife's birthdays, but Steph's birthday's in May too.
Okay.
So I'm curious. But.
Yeah. We'll do some hand signs later.
Yeah.
So
we'll talk in code. It's not the first. It's not the second. It's not the third.
It's not the fifth.
Somewhere around. It's in between like 5 and 7. I just want you to get.
I don't want to say it though.
Right.
So she's like, okay, we're going to go out. And she's like, we should do a big birthday thing. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, we'll celebrate your 31st birthday. And I was like, it's actually my 30th birthday. And now she's 32. And she's like, what? You're 29? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what? So she's super unhappy about all this.
She's 3 years older than you?
She's sometimes.
Okay. 2.5, 3.
2.5. Yeah. 2.5 years older than me.
Steph is.
It's not even 2.5. It's like two years and like 3 months.
Yeah, Steph is only like a year and 3 months older. So we're dating older women.
Both of us,
right? We scored older chicks.
Yeah, dude, way to go, older
right?
chicks.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's not an end thing, but
old chicks,
cougars, pumas. So we go out drinking. And we'd go out and this and that, but Jamie had never seen me like drink. And I come from an alcoholic family. I was in the Marine Corps, right?
You're a drinker.
I know how to put some booze down.
We've had a couple of opportunities to drink together. Yeah. I don't drink a lot anymore.
Yeah.
My drinking days are definitely behind me.
Yeah, same.
But are you sure the same? Because
no, maybe not the same.
Maybe we have different definitions of drinking
behind
days.
Us, yeah. Well, yeah.
You could still drink.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if I had to.
Somebody held me down and said, drink or throw up. I'm fucking drinking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll drink. So
Jamie hadn't experienced it yet.
Jamie had an experience. So we go out and she's like, we're drinking, like, I've got friends coming over. We're doing shots. I'm drinking Jack and Cokes, and I'm multiple Jack and Cokes deep. I'm like, oop, I'll be right back. Run to the restroom, throw up, come back out, like, where's my drink? Right? Get back to drinking. We finally, like,
you just go fucking throw up and
puke and rally, man. No big deal. Yeah. And
if I throw up, I'm done.
You're done. You're like somebody give me a blanket.
I'm done.
And a teddy bear.
The day is over. I don't care what's going on. I don't care if it's 9 a.m. I'm done for the rest of the day. I'm taking the day off. I'm going back to bed. I don't care what's on the schedule. We are finished for at least 24 hours if I
just
throw up.
Vomit and done.
It's not fucking, oh, I'm good. Just give me another drink. I'll be all right.
Just watch that shit. The booze kills the flavor of the vomit, so it's fine. So I'm super drunk, and this is before Uber. We get a cab, takes us back to my place, which is only like 5 miles down the road, and we show up, and this cab driver was taking like the back roads, and it's a little bumpy, and this is making me a little more sick, a little more like, ooh, I might have drank too much. And so we get out of the cab, and I walk over, and it's one of, I mean, it might have been this high or this high, like, and there's like a spackle wall, like a brick wall, right, around my neighbors, and it's dividing our driveway and the neighbors. And I just lean over this wall into my neighbor's yard and just start vomiting. Right? Like I'm literally just resting my stomach on this wall, just, and Jamie comes over. She's like rubbing my back, and she's like, oh, it's okay. And I was like, I know, throwing up, and I yak so hard. She's standing right behind, and I farted. And I stop, and I'm like, I farted. Go back to, and she's like, who is this guy? He interrupts his vomit to laugh about a fart, right? And then I was like, all right, I feel better. How you doing?
Hey, you want to go do it?
Hey, you want to go do it? And she's like, not a chance, guy. But,
do you have any gum? I'll be ready in a minute.
Yeah, I'll be ready. Might have to change my shirt real quick.
The worst, not the worst. I'm trying to think of like some of the worst times that I've had. Steph will probably tell you some stories, but I think I had a really shitty drunk moment, because a handful of them stick out as like some of the drunkest times that I've ever been. And this was during a period of my life when I was like in my late 20s. I had gotten divorced from my first wife, and I was going through this fucking experience. I was just like, life was crazy during this time period, right? Fresh off of a divorce. I didn't know what I was doing. It was a phase
which is a crazy time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot, because I've been there, right? Yeah. Going through that emotion, and you just start doing dumb things.
I start doing lots of dumb things. And so I was working at a bar, and I was a bar back. Do you know what a bar back is?
Yep. Getting ice.
Yeah, getting a lot of ice. And working as a bar back, and this bar was also a brewery. And so the guy that brewed all the beer would also brew good stuff. Okay. And so he had some good stuff that he had brewed.
Liquors.
No, it was like some
meads.
Yeah, some really heavy, high concentration, like some really good, not a beer that you're gonna sit and chug and drink, but like a mead or I don't know what else they're called, right?
Like an IPA.
No. Yeah, like an 18% fucking, it's something that you're gonna put and sip and enjoy. And I was like, I'm gonna chug. I'm going to chug. I'm going to drink a lot of this stuff. And I drank a lot of it. Okay. And I was in the back of the bar, like outside, laying in the gravel, just laying on my side, like not even where you can like get up and prepare yourself. I'm just laying there, throwing up repeatedly. And they stick me in a fucking cab and send me home. Yeah. It was horrible. It was one of that's probably alcohol poisoning level of like, do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. Like the next day, or I think your brain at some point processes the method of like, or the idea of like, this is alcohol poisoning. Right. That's what this is right now. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I had another one. Baby, you're good to come in if you want. We're just gonna keep recording. I was gonna have you pour, but that swap out's perfect. Do you not want to be on camera? Okay, you're good. Thank you, sweetheart. I love you.
That's the best.
I was gonna bring a extra one because I kind of woke up a little bit early, not early, a little bit late this morning, so I didn't get the full coffee regime that I had planned. But anyways, luckily,
You've
got an amazing wife.
You have an amazing.
Do you want a cup of coffee?
I really, yes.
You can have this one.
No, I don't want your cup of coffee.
Let's share it. It's big enough.
Okay.
We can share.
I'm done with that. I have not had any coffee yet today.
Seriously, do you want some?
Seriously, yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll text her.
Yeah,
Bring
please.
us
That would be
another
the
cup
best.
of coffee.
Yeah, that would be. I appreciate that.
The other time that I can think of, it was when I was a cop. And sorry, let's text Steph real quick.
So,
go ahead.
So I'm just thinking about coffee this morning. I've had
a black too.
Yeah. There'd be, maybe a sugar, but not a big deal.
Sugar?
No, it's okay.
We've got everything.
I like sugar.
Cream, sugar,
like
whole 9 yards. A little bit of sugar.
A little bit of sugar.
Okay.
Just a little sugar. We ran out of coffee filters.
Okay.
And we have a stupid coffee maker that takes its own stupid kind of coffee filters that are like, you can't buy them at the store.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been without coffee filters for like the last week. And we just ordered some, but they won't be until like Friday from Amazon.
What kind of stupid machine do you have?
It's a bun coffee maker. It's a really good, like it's
those buns are good.
It's a great coffee maker.
Yeah, those are like fucking the kind that they put in Denny's and shit.
Yeah.
They'll fucking run forever.
It'll run forever. I mean, we've had it for I'm close to a decade, I think. And it brews a whole like 12 cups of coffee in like 2 minutes, piping hot. It's great because it has its own like already reheated water tank or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I asked, we were working out this morning. I sent our friend Michael a text. I was like, hey, will you bring me a coffee? And he was like, because I was like, I'm out of coffee. He's like, yeah, sure. I was like, sweet, because he's coming over to come work out. And he walks in the garage and drops the coffee. And I mean, literally like just all over the place.
Fuck you, Michael.
Yeah, right? Listen, I appreciate you bringing me a coffee and then spiking it in front of me. Here's your, just fuck you and your coffee.
That's the worst.
And I was like, all right. And then Jamie went to the Y to work out and she got coffee on the way and not on the way back. And I was like, all right. And then I was like, well, there's no coffee. So I drank a Monster at 6:30 this morning. It was more like 5:30. So I drank a Monster at 5:30 this morning. And then I was like, well, I'll stop on my way to Craig's house and I'll get a coffee. And to be honest, I was listening to some music and I totally spaced it. And I got here and I was like, damn it. But
I usually ask you before we record. I was going to ask you, but
you didn't. And it
every
hurt
time
my
I
feelings.
ask you, you're like, no, I'm good.
I'm good. And then I was like, you didn't ask me
next
this
time, just fucking say,
I know.
hey,
I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. So you're a cop. You're drunk.
Yeah, there was one time we went out with some, it was, because obviously I had a good group of guys that, you know, hung out with all the time. It wasn't just working together, but we fucking lived life together.
Yeah.
And so we were going family camping. We took all the kids, the whole 9 yards. And it was great. Wonderful weekend. And I got too drunk. And I fell in the fire. And I got burned by the fucking, like, it was one of those fire pits that have the, like, the metal rings in place and everything.
So that's really hot.
Piping fucking hot.
Yeah.
Fall in the fire.
So you're branding yourself.
Exactly. I end up, because we had, I had huskies for a long time.
Okay.
So I had all three of them.
You had three huskies?
I had four at one point.
You had 4 huskies?
I did like the whole 9 yards with the mushing and the sled and don't
really?
Yeah,
Are
fucker.
Don't laugh at me, fucker.
It was a legit. I miss my huskies. Yeah, I was.
Hey, but you had like a sled?
Yeah, I used to. I can show you pictures. Okay. They did a story of me in the local newspaper.
No, they fucking did.
Yeah, they did. They came out and brought a photographer. I've got great footage of me in the sled in the dogs. I'll show you some pictures.
Did you grow up reading like Call of the Wild? And
I definitely grew up with a love for like wolves.
Wolves,
and
okay.
I've always liked huskies. And then it was in my first marriage. I was in young 20s. I don't remember.
Which is a great time to get 4 huskies.
Right. I don't remember. Oh, it was a buddy of mine. I was trying to remember how I got into it. There was a guy that I worked with. He was a cook at this Mexican restaurant, and he had some, and they had a litter.
Okay.
And he was
like, I'll take a half a dozen.
Have one. So I went over and picked out one, and it was one of those situations where he had like, it wasn't the best situation, right? The dogs were underneath a patio. It wasn't really taking care of them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm getting 2 of these. And then like...
Buy one, get one?
Yeah, 2 months later, I went back and got a third one that was like their uncle.
Uh-huh.
And so I had those dogs for a long time, and then got a 4th one that was a rescue.
How did you teach, like... So did you...
It's a whole thing. It's like a whole journey. Because initially it was just we're getting dogs for the family, right?
Yeah.
And we got a brother and a sister, and they were super good dogs, high energy dogs, right?
Well,
Lots
they're
of fun
huskies,
stuff, right?
Yeah.
As soon as they were big enough, I got little harnesses for them, and they used to pull the kids around when they were little, and I just started training them. And I lucked out and found somebody at the time that lived up in the mountains that had a full kennel, like a huge kennel with 30 plus huskies. And that was like what they did. So became fast friends with them and used to go hang out and spend time with their dogs and learn about the whole fucking thing from them. And so I had a sled for the winter time, like a wooden, it was an Ed Moody sled. And Ed Moody was and is, I don't think he's still alive, but he was like if you had an Ed Moody sled, it was a fucking deal. Handcrafted, super good fucking sled. And it was. And then in the fall, like dry land, I had a scooter. It was.
Did you say dry land?
Yeah.
Is this like Waterworld?
It was.
The dogs are swimming.
And I used to use that a lot because,
Does it have wheels?
It was basically like a scooter, a stand-up scooter.
That your dogs pull?
Yeah, but it was heavy duty. I mean, it had like disc brakes. It was built on this really heavy-duty frame, and it was a super sweet scooter. And so I had a whole system.
Sweet scooter.
It was super sweet. It was awesome. But anyways, back to getting drunk and falling in the fire pit.
Yeah.
I also had all the dogs with us. And so at one point I'm like going down to the river with the dogs and falling into the river. And it was just...
The dogs are just like, he's so much fun.
But the kids remember it very well because it was like... I mean, I try not to get super drunk around the kids.
How old were the kids?
They
were they teenagers?
This would have been 10, 12 years ago. So they were... I think Asher, Asher's 18 now, and I think he was probably 8.
Okay.
They were young.
I mean,
definitely, like, I'm not a fan of getting shit-faced and falling in the fucking fire.
And that's why I'm asking, right, is like, because I don't think...
And all the other people had their kids there, too.
Yeah.
So it was like everybody hanging around the campfire at night, having a good time.
Was anybody else super drunk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody else was super drunk, too.
Okay, well, then you're not like just the drunk guy.
Everybody's like, we got to go to bed. Craig's, no.
Yeah, they're like this is a funeral, and you're
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. I don't know if my kids have ever seen me. That's the hard part is like, especially like younger kids. Like if you drink, like the next morning, like they don't care.
Yeah.
Right? There's definitely been a couple of times where like we've had like a late party, right? Like Jamie and I will like her company Christmas party and we'll go out and then like the next day we're at home on like the couch and we're like, can we DoorDash burritos, right? Like breakfast burritos from Juan B's or Juan Berto's. Shout out to Juan B's. And you just be like, yeah, we're just going to lay here all day and eat shitty food and watch Days of Our Lives.
Even like any drinking in this present moment of my life fucks me up for days.
Yeah.
When we went out, however many weeks ago it was, and had some drinks on Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
I didn't drink a lot. I think I probably had two, maybe three drinks,
2.5,
but they were like small drinks, right?
Yeah.
Over the course of several hours.
I think I drank half of one of them.
Yeah, you drank quite a bit. You were drunk. You were shit. You fell in the fucking fire.
I didn't fall in the fucking fire. I didn't drive home.
And I wasn't drunk at all. I was barely buzzing.
I definitely had
at the slightest, right? Yeah. And the next day I was just like, I can't move. My fucking body hurt. Yeah. It was horrible. So I think hangovers now last for days.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like hangovers they're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I nowadays, like, even when we go out, I will have normally a drink, but I like always get a water, right? And I'm like, no, I'm pounding water while I'm at it, and I will sip. I do this a lot when I travel for work. If we're all out, is I'll get like an old fashioned or some kind of like drink, and I will sip on that thing for an hour. And I'll literally just get it so that like the ice melts enough so it looks like there's more in there, and I'll take a little sip of that, right? And I'll just, because I don't want to get super messed up, and I hate that hangover feeling. I hate like just like that groggy, just fuck.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It is the worst. It's because you're trying to poison yourself.
It's straight up poison.
It is poison. and you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to drink more of this poison. And then
everything should work out fine.
It'll all be fine. It'll be fine. I'll have a Gatorade, which
I've been drinking water.
So
I'm totally fine.
Yeah. I'll have a coffee real quick to sober me up.
Did you grow up with alcohol? Meaning, like, was it something that you saw your parents drink? Was it in the house? Was it just a regular thing?
Yeah.
Or kind of what was that like?
Yeah. So my dad was an alcoholic and struggled with it on and off his entire life.
What did that look like? Like, rather than, we don't have to go balls deep into it.
No.
But...
Like, I knew that Dad drank a lot. Mom would have some cocktails, like we'd have a barbecue, and she'd have, but it wasn't nearly the same. And when one parent is a raging alcoholic, another parent tends to be like, well, I should make sure the kids don't die.
Yeah.
Especially, just normal.
So is he drinking every day? It
was a pretty regular, common thing. He would normally even when it was after I was grown up, he would like a 12-pack a day, like just 12-pack of Budweiser. Just drinking beer.
Mm-hmm.
He would also, like, if he went to the bar, he would drink rum and Cokes. It's funny. I drink Jack and Cokes, and so I drink whiskey. He drank rum, and I knew that he drank something like that, but because I wasn't that age, I never put it together what he got, and I assumed he drank Jack and Coke. So when I started drinking, because I grew up away from that because I was in the military and just all over the place. So I didn't grow up, like when I turned 21, I think I was 23 before I had a beer with my dad, or 22. But I started drinking Jack and Cokes. And then when we went to the bar for the first time and he's like, yeah, can I get a rum and Coke? And I was like, oh shit, like you drink rum and Coke? My whole life is a lie. And
did you switch? You didn't switch?
No, I didn't switch. No, I'm not a huge fan of rum. I'm just not a pirate enough, but
that's what it is.
That's what it is.
It's definitely
the pirate.
You don't
stuff.
have enough pirate blood in you.
I don't have enough pirate blood in you. I got enough like whiskey in me. I don't know, whiskey blood. What would that be? Irish, Scots? I don't know. Who drinks
science? I don't
hillbillies?
Know. Hillbillies.
That's I got
You're
enough.
Definitely
hillbillies.
in the right place.
I got yeah. So. Yeah, I drink whiskey and Jack and Cokes. And
back to what it was like with
growing
up with an alcoholic
I was trying to avoid
father.
that. The alcoholic father avoidance.
Like, it's not necessarily, I am curious.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, what are you processing that as a child? Like, how do you...
I don't even know if I did any kind of like actual processing as a kid. Because it literally was one of those things like Dad drank, and he wasn't a violent drunk. He wasn't like he would just drink all day, and it was just what he did. I knew if we were going out, he was going to have a couple drinks. He would drink beer. My dad was a biker. Like that's what they did. They partied and drank beers, right? And there's photos of me and my sisters in diapers walking around with Budweiser cans full of water. And we're drinking out of that because that's what he was drinking Budweiser, right? And then I do remember, so like booze, and my dad was a huge, not a huge drug. He was definitely a drug user. Smoked a lot of weed, did some other drugs on and off here and there when he could afford it, right? But smoked a lot of weed. And I remember, like, we would go somewhere on, like, a Saturday morning. We'd go to, like, the bike shop where he was working, and he'd light a joint in the truck in the middle of the wintertime, heat's on, and we're just in this thing, just, what's that called?
Hotboxing.
Hotboxing it. That's what I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what that's called. So he's like, we're just in his truck driving, 45 minutes away, hotboxing it. I knew, and my mom smoked cigarettes. So she smoked cigarettes that came in a box, and my dad made his, right? And they smelled funny. Like, that's all I remembered for the longest time. And
it's because you were high as fuck.
I was totally high. I was an 8-year-old, just like fucking Mickey D's, man. Right? And I was just, and I just never really thought about it. I knew that my dad struggled with it because he would try to get, it was a big deal. Not that he was an alcoholic, but he would like get his paycheck, go cash it, go pay his tab at the bar, buy some drugs, get drunk, and then come home and hand my mom like the remaining $250. And she's like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, that's all I got. And she'd be like, yeah, but like, fucking asshole, you know. So I knew there was a lot of like, there was a lot of financial struggles with a lot of that. And then he wasn't a super healthy guy for any of that stuff. I know that he tried to get sober numerous times. Like he even went as far, like he was taking the medication that'll make you sick if you drink. He had tried AA a couple times on and off. I think me and my sisters went to like, was it Al-Anon for like the support for alcoholic like family members.
Yeah. How old were you when you did that?
I was like
was
10.
It when you were a kid? Okay.
Yeah, I was like 10, 11, maybe 9, something in that range. And I remember just sitting there going like, yeah, like, I don't know. My dad drinks. Like and it wasn't a destructive thing in my world. It wasn't one of those where like my dad was this like absentee, like if he was at the bar, he wasn't at home hanging out with us. But like at the same time, I had a lot of really good memories of like Sunday. Well, probably because my dad was hungover, like laying on the couch, sitting in the living room, watching racing and watching like drag racing and stuff with my dad. And going places, we'd go feed the ducks on Saturday or Sunday.
So it's not a lot of like, you know, picking your dad up off the floor or having to like.
No, not a lot of that at all. I mean, definitely as I got older and like they divorced when I was a young teenager. And then they like.
How old do you remember?
I think they tried to like get back together a couple times. And it was one of those, like, I think even after they got divorced, like, he would come live with us for a couple months. And then my mom would be like, no, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And it was totally, like, my mom will say, like, she didn't divorce my dad because she didn't love him. She divorced him because she just couldn't be around that anymore. It was just too much. He was just not reliable enough in any of that, which I totally understand. And
the reason I ask, like, do you remember the age that you were when they got divorced?
I remember when they separated. I think I was 9 when they separated.
Okay.
And then that was the first time because we were all living together. And then I think when I was 9, we moved into an apartment and I think he moved in back with his mom at their place or something. And then he bounced around at a bunch of different places. And then, I think I was like 9. And I think they officially got divorced when I was like 13, like signed the paperwork and whatever. But even after that, like they would try to like make it work occasionally here and there. Or if he was like just not had anywhere to stay, my mom would be like, you can come stay here.
My parents got divorced when I was 14.
Okay.
And it was like...
Was it like a big deal?
Well, I mean, divorce, right?
Yeah, I say that. Like such a fucking... Totally just over here, just like downplaying. I was like, oh, was that like a big deal for you and your family?
At the time, I didn't think of it as a big deal in the sense of... Because my dad had a job where he worked... like 2-3 days on, 2-3 days off, like where he was gone for half of the week. And so he would stay at his job. He was a military police and he worked at this military base that was out in the middle of nowhere. And so he had a completely, like almost like a different life in a sense where he would go there, he had a room, he lived on base for half of the week and then would come home. Mm-hmm. And that was my entire life. I mean, he did that job until he retired. So that was very much like we had a different life when dad was home and a different life when dad was at work. So by the time I was 14 and it was like, okay, we're getting a divorce, they're getting a divorce, it was like fucking about time.
Gotcha.
Because it was just, every time he was home, it was shitty. It was stressful. It was, we weren't able to kind of live the life of whatever we wanted to do kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That was the view that I had at the time growing up and everything like that. Looking back, I mean, it was incredibly impactful. It was incredibly detrimental to me. And It wasn't necessarily, like it wasn't them getting divorced because they didn't have a good relationship.
Gotcha.
They weren't like...
super lovey-dovey.
Yeah. No, I don't ever remember them having what I would describe at any stage as a healthy, loving relationship. Gotcha. And so it's not that they fought a lot or anything like that. I mean, there's definitely some memories with them fighting and everything like that. But fighting was arguing. They were never physically at each other.
Throwing ashtrays at each other.
Yeah, I mean, my dad would slam doors. He would punch holes in things. He was physical.
You're like, it wasn't, like anything. He would slam doors, punch holes in walls,
right?
Which is not like
it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the mentality that
I just want to make sure, like, the listeners, like,
yeah,
we're not advocating for punching holes in
definitely
walls.
not.
No.
But that's the way that it was. Like, that's the way that I viewed it. It wasn't that big of a deal
because that was all you didn't have anything to compare or contrast to or anything like that. That was just the
other than like TV and movies, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if your dad's not beating you or beating your mom, then it's not that big of a deal. But the reality is, it wasn't great.
Right. Isn't that messed up? Because I agree.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, yeah, like he never hit her. And you're like, because when you're growing up, you see on television, like that's that point.
Yeah.
That's the other side of the what's okay, right? Like fighting, arguing, yelling, slamming a door. You see people in movies punch holes in walls and get angry and take their physical aggression out on something else. But that becomes like that's when they put their hands on another person. That's okay. Well, now it's too much.
Yeah.
You're like, no. We've already gone past. Right.
Yeah. And so because that's the way that I grew up, that's the way that I dealt with stuff. Where, I mean, as little kids, as me and my brothers grew up, just punching holes in everything.
Yeah.
Our doors, the walls. I remember one time I was so angry. I don't even remember what I was angry about, but I was little. I was so angry and I had so much like anger in my body. I didn't know what to do with it. Right. And the thing that I did with it, my solution was I just ran and tucked my shoulder and ran into the wall in my closet. So like full speed, just ran straight into the wall and managed to line it up just perfectly in between two studs. And it was like this huge body size dentation into the fucking sheetrock. And I got done with that and I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking dead. I'm fucking dead. Because it was in the back of my closet and I was like, I'll just hide it.
There you go.
Just cover it up. And so it was like, I had to go tell my mom, and my mom was pretty okay with it. She was like, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
But dad's going to come home and you're going to have to tell dad. It sucked. But, they got divorced when I was 14. They never really had a good relationship. So I didn't have anything to be like, I wasn't missing my parents together in a sense. It was like, you guys obviously need to get divorced.
Yeah.
This isn't working.
Yeah.
And
there was already a lot of time where they were apart.
Exactly.
So it wasn't a huge...
They weren't really in a relationship, right? And what sucked was when they got divorced, they didn't... It's all hazy, gray memories because I don't know the specifics of what they agreed to, what their... custody. I don't know any of that stuff. I just know what it was like. And it was basically like, cool. Now my dad was just gone and we would see him super sporadically. Like every now and then he would stop by on his way home from work and pick us up and we'd go into Salt Lake and see a movie or something like that. And then he'd bring us back home and drop us off. And so I never lived with him. We never went and stayed with him. Granted, I was 14. My oldest brother was also, he was already graduated and he was either in college or going to college. So it's much different than if we were like little boys back in the day. But still, there wasn't really a relationship with my dad at that point moving forward. Granted, I didn't really have that much of a relationship with him prior to, right? And at 14 years old, it's not like I was excited to have a relationship with my dad anyways. Right? 14-year-olds are thinking about other things and doing other things. But looking back, it was very like a super significant shift in my life. And it wasn't even just, again, that they got divorced. It was that suddenly my dad just wasn't really a role in my life anymore. And it also was obviously challenging for my mom and difficult for my mom. And I mean, I'm not interested in talking about my mom.
It's fine. We don't have to. Today.
Right.
It'll help with your asthma.
Definitely help with my asthma.
I get that. And so like that's the thing is.
Oh, I was going to talk about. Sorry, I was going to mention alcohol. Yeah. So the relationship that I saw growing up was like, I remember being little, being like 2, 3, 4 years old,
Drinking.
And sipping off of my dad's beer.
Okay. Yep.
And my mom getting pissed off.
Okay.
And my dad being like, whatever, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then sipping off of his beer every now and then. It wasn't a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
But it was more than once. And I remember that being a thing. And I was little. Like I said, I was probably 3.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. I was drinking something that I wasn't supposed to be drinking. Dad was doing something that he wasn't, like mom was upset. So it was kind of like this little thing, and my dad was laughing and joking about it, and it wasn't a big deal. And then I don't know what took place in their life. I don't know what conversations they had. But other than that, at a very early age, then it just kind of disappeared in our life. It wasn't really present anymore. We didn't really have alcohol in the house. Every now and then there would be like a beer or something like that in the back of the fridge. The next time alcohol popped up in my life was my grandpa came and went on vacation with us. It was when my grandma passed away. Mm-hmm. And so he came, and I think he stayed with us for a little bit, a week or something like that. And then we went on this vacation to Yellowstone, but he needed a little something to go in his coffee. So then we had a little bottle of, I don't even remember what it was.
Something.
But Grandpa used that when he was here, and he put it in his coffee, and then it sat up in the cupboard for the next 10 years until, whatever, it got thrown away or something like that. So alcohol really wasn't something that was a thing growing up. I didn't see it a lot. My parents weren't drinkers. And then it was me just figuring it out. When I 17, I was definitely able to drive. I was probably 16, 17 years old. A buddy of mine had some, were they fuzzy navels? Is that what they were called? There was some
peach schnapps,
schnapps, fuzzy navels. There was some, I don't know, fruity, shitty drink, Bartles and James, all those like little
$2 Chuck or something. Mm-hmm.
He had a couple of bottles of that he had scored somewhere.
Yeah, what's that shitty, it's not Goose Creek or some kind of like...
all of those, right? Yeah, and so he had a couple of those.
It's a plastic bottle.
We drank some of those. And then I had another buddy of mine who had a much different life. Mm-hmm. His family was much different, and so they had alcohol. They were from out of state. Like, that was the other thing, that Utah and the Mormon religion definitely influenced and shaped the culture around drinking and everything. And I grew up, like, when I say I grew up in the heart of it, I mean, Utah itself is the heart of the Mormon religion, right?
Yes.
It's like obviously where it's not where it originated, but it's basically where it originated.
There's a big building in the middle of Salt Lake.
There's multiple big buildings. Yeah. And so the culture in Utah was very much based off of the Mormon religion.
Yeah.
And we grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
Which also was like so much more integrated into it. You're good, baby.
Yeah.
Come on in, sweetheart. Again, thank you so much. You don't have to be on camera. You're amazing.
I appreciate
this. Is very not normal. We usually don't do this much coffee drinking, but for whatever reason, it's really hitting. So thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's so good. I appreciate it. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Caffeine. More caffeine. That's what I need in my day, is more caffeine.
And so the Mormon church thing was definitely a big factor when it came to like my relationship with alcohol, just because it wasn't something.
But you didn't grow up in the church.
We like, this is the other thing is you're in Utah. You're in Utah. I'm in a small town. This small town was founded by like the church. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, there's no way not to grow up in it. I'm not from Utah. I don't understand. So think about it this way. Mormon pioneers fled I think it was Missouri, or, they basically fled out east and they came west. Yep. And they settled in Utah. Okay. And then it was in Salt Lake City. Yep. And then they just slowly expand out from there. And Grantsville, the place that I grew up, is just on the other side of the mountain from Salt Lake. Okay. So it was one of the first areas that got settled outside of Salt Lake. So the earliest settlers in Grantsville we're all Mormon. It's got a church from like the early, I think it's the late 1800s.
Okay.
That is still in town. That it's not a church anymore. People, like a family, actually lives there now. It's very strange, but so it was founded by Mormons.
Gotcha.
I also come from, like, there's a street in Grantsville that's named Clark Street. I come from that lineage, so it's like,
gotcha.
It's a part of me.
Gotcha.
We grew up in it. I was born and raised in it. I was baptized.
Okay.
So it was something that I was very much a part of. And then right around 10 years old, we just stopped going to church.
Gotcha.
For
whatever reason.
I have a story around it, but
yeah,
I don't know the real reason why we stopped going. And so yeah, drinking wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And then a buddy of mine in high school, he moved from Texas or something like that. His dad was in the Air Force. They had a much different relationship with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was present in their house. So there were times where, like, I'd go over to Ricky's house and, we'd go out to the backyard and start fishing, and we'd sit there and drink beer and everything like that. So I had a much different relationship with it, kind of in my later teen years. Gotcha. And then early adult life, and then so on and so forth.
So it's interesting because, like,
hey, real quick, if you're just somebody that listens to podcasts, thank you. But if you want to watch us week after week, jump over to our YouTube channel. Just search out bravemendare. Click that subscribe button. Don't forget the little notification bell, and come see what we're all about week after week on the podcast. We share tons of content there as well, and we even have some plans in the future to do some live episodes. So come subscribe to us on YouTube, and while you're at it, you might as well follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well. We hope you're enjoying this episode. Let's get back to it.
I grew up, like, it was around. Like, my mom drank, right? Mm-hmm. Not as an alcoholic, but, like, we had lots of gatherings and events and parties and stuff like that. And there was alcohol there. And it wasn't, like, a big deal. My mom definitely, like, as somebody who, like, she was a bit of a rebellion kind of, like, child. So she liked to, like, cut loose. And she's like, yeah, I have a couple kids. This alcoholic, shitty kind of, like, husband, but I also want to have a good time here and there. So, I think the first time I got drunk, my grandfather, my mother's father, took me from Michigan. We went down to DC there's a big motorcycle thing called Rolling Thunder.
Okay.
And I think it's over Memorial Day. And like 100,000 motorcycles descend on DC. And that's why they call it Rolling Thunder, right? It sounds like thunder with all the motorcycles. So it was cool for me because I got an opportunity to go to our nation's capital and, like, see the wall and these monuments and stuff like that. That had a fairly large impact on me as well.
How old were you?
I think I was 10 or 11.
Okay.
But we stopped. Bunch of old guys, bikers and stuff like that. More so, there's subcultures within bikers, right? So there's my dad, the biker that you see are the Breaking Bad, the Sons of Anarchy. Like, my dad spent a lot of time around clubs, right? That was the kind of motorcycle guy he was, right? My grandfather was the business owner who had Harleys, right? And, like, had custom Harleys made, and, like, oh, that's my project Harley, and that's my cruising Harley. Like, my dad would throw the tent on the back of his bike and sleep on the side of the road on his way to the motorcycle rally, and my grandfather was staying at Hilton's, right? So different sides of the motorcycle world.
For sure.
And my grandfather took us. We stopped in Wheeling, Ohio, or something like that. Wheels Inn, and I was like 10 or 11, and they just started letting me do shots. I'm hanging out with a bunch of, like, 60-year-old retired guys, a bunch of Vietnam vets. Like, we're going down to Rolling Thunder, and I mean, like, I remember I had they started me with, like, a virgin daiquiri.
Okay.
Right. And then I got a daiquiri. And then I was like, oh, this one's different. Somebody takes a drink and they're like, oh, ow, that's got alcohol in it. And he's like, I'll be all right. And then I think I did a shot called an Alabama Slammer or something like that. Some kind of like Fireball kind of like whiskey or something. And then I just started like having sips of everybody else's. We're on the dance floor going to town. And I...
Is this the trip with just your grandpa?
So it's just it's my grandfather and me, and then 20 other bikers.
Are you riding with your grandpa?
Yep. So I'm riding on the back of my grandfather's
Nice.
bike. Right.
This is a fucking journey, dude.
Oh yeah. And we did this stuff all the time. Like I would go with him often on different motorcycle trips.
That's awesome.
Anywhere between a day ride to a week. Right.
Is your mom's dad?
Yeah, mom's dad. Yep.
Okay.
So literally grew up in the motorcycle community, right? And I'm like, all right. And I don't remember everything that happened. I remember that I was vomiting at the toilet in the hotel room, and I hear my grandfather's friend, Dean. Was it Dean? I don't remember what his name was, but he was like, "Ow, Ben's puking." And here comes my grandfather, and my grandfather had like lost all his hair, but was still doing the George Carlton pullback, and it's out of the ponytail, so it's all up, right? It's this crazy half-gone gray Jew fro, right? It's just this giant fro thing going on, and he's in his underwear, and he's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah," just vomiting, and he's like, and he just looked at me, he's like, "Yeah. That's what happens," and like just went back to bed. He was like, "Yeah, you'll figure this shit out, kid," right? And I'm like, "All right." He goes back to bed, and I wake up, and I am so hungover and so miserable. I slept on the back of that motorcycle for the next like 6 hours.
Wow.
I remember, numerous times that we'd ride, and then we'd stop to get gas and stretch our legs, and we'd stop, and he'd like smack me, like hit my leg a bunch. And, like because I just riding down the highway on the back, just catching flies.
Hungover 10-year-old.
Hungover 10-year-old just passed out on the back of this bike. And that was the first time I got drunk. And then I don't think I got drunk again till I was like 14 or 15. My mom got super mad once. She walked over. She was going to go make herself something, and she went to go pour herself something out of like her like bottle of vodka, and it was just water. Like we had drank so much of it and just kept trying to replace it with water that she was so pissed. But yeah, we never, alcohol wasn't like a bad thing. Even though my father was an alcoholic, it still wasn't one of those things. Like it was like, yeah, that's too much. It's okay to have it. It's okay to drink. It's okay to even get drunk, right? Like, but there are consequences to that. You have to deal with those consequences, and you shouldn't do it every day. And that was kind of the way that I was raised on it. And I've pretty much maintained that kind of attitude towards it. There's been some times where I've been a little more like, we're going to get drunk. And there's definitely been some times I'm like, I don't need to drink.
Have you used it? Has there been times in your life where you were definitely using it too much? Like it wasn't just, oh, we got shit-faced, we got drunk, I was having fun, but it became the crutch that I started relying upon too much?
Yeah. After my second divorce, I definitely went into some depression and started going to this local bar by where I lived, and I would just show up.
Were you a bar back?
No, I was I was in the Marine Corps, and I for the guys I served with, I appreciate all your guys' love and support during this time of my life, because I know that you all remember it. Because I was a mess. I was an active duty Marine, and I'm like, yeah, like my bunch of guys I worked with. I don't want to talk poorly on anybody, but there was some photos that got posted on the internet that I was unhappy about with my ex-wife. Okay. Nothing inappropriate or like that, but to me was inappropriate. And we were still together at the time, and I lost my shit to the point that like I threw a chair and it fucked up the ceiling tiles in the corner because I threw it up into the like corner of the room. I threw a laptop. I like tossed a garbage can and like hit somebody in the face with it. Like not intentionally, but I was so angry that I was sitting at this desk and I just lost my shit and started destroying things as I walked out of the room. And I remember like that happened, and like a couple like staff sergeants and a couple like gunny cock like walked out like, "You all right, man?" I'm like, "No, I am not." And they're like, "All right. Want to have a cigarette? Like, sit here and talk about it for a minute?" But I was super depressed and I'd leave work, I'd get on my bike, I'd ride to this bar, and I would start drinking, and then I would order dinner, and I would eat dinner, and I'd continue to drink, and then I would probably get on my bike and go through the Jack in the Box or like some shitty burger thing. I think it was a Jack in the Box. I'd go through Jack in the Box drive-through on my Harley, ride home, maybe have one more drink, and then I would wake up at like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning to my phone ringing, and it'd be like, and I'd like, hello? And I'd be like, hey, Sergeant Tim, it's Corporal Powell. You doing okay? And I'm like, yeah. What time is it? And they're like, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Just want to make sure you're okay. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in a little bit. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll just see you when you get here. Because everybody knew what I was going through, and nobody really wanted to like be too much of a dick to me through this process. And then I think after like 3 weeks, the bartender, or maybe 2 weeks, the bartender looked at me one day, and I showed up, and he's like, hey, you can't drink tonight. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, man, you've been here every day for 2.5, 3 weeks. You can have dinner, but you can't drink here. And I was like, fuck you. And there's a bar there's a or like a liquor store. I'll just go there. And he's like, do whatever you want to do. You can't drink here.
Yeah.
And I think I drank like 2 more times after that real heavy. And I was like, God, the bartender cut me off. Like before I even had a drink. And I was like, this could be. There were times that I drank so much, I would just wheel my bike into the bar and they would give me a ride home. Right? And then I would just it's like somebody come get me, or I would walk, or like I'd call work and somebody who I worked with, like, hey, some fucking Lance Corporal come pick me up and take me to my bike so I can come to work.
Was this the only time in your life that it got that extreme?
That's probably the worst that it had ever been.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was probably a solid like month if I were to really like look at it, like a whole month of just debauchery and drinking and women and just I don't care, and just trying to like kill the thoughts and the pain of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was one day I was like, all right, and I was like, you're fat, and I was like, let's stop this. And I just like woke up the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, went to the gym, and was like, all right, back on this thing. But, and this is not in line with the drinking thing, I believe that everything happens for a reason in life. My ex-wife and I got divorced. I started drinking too much. I put on some weight. A bartender told me I couldn't drink there. I started going to the gym. I didn't like hanging out with the 65-year-old guys at the 24-hour or the LA Fitness at 5 o'clock in the morning. And somebody had said, you should try CrossFit. I checked out the nearest CrossFit gym. I joined that. I learned that. I deployed, came back. I just started going back to CrossFit again. And that's where I met my wife. And like we knew each other for 2 years or 3 years or something like that. And then through those friends and that whole community, like we started dating. And we're having this podcast now because of that divorce.
Right.
So
I think about that.
Thanks, bitch.
Terrible.
She's not going to hear this. Her brother might. I love you, Cam.
I think about that dynamic of piecing together your life one step at a time, where it's like this led to this, then led to this, then so on and so forth. Because I agree the same way. I think the same way. I love looking back and putting the pieces together to see how I got to where I got. And I want to tell you like similar-ish dynamic between Steph and I and how Steph and I met. But I wanted to share the first time, because I was trying to think like, because you talk about 10 years old going to DC with your grandpa getting shit-faced, right?
Yep.
I was like, when did I get drunk first? And I think the first time that I remember being like drunk, I was a senior in high school. And it was like the night before state tennis. So when I was in high school, I played tennis all 4 years.
Yeah.
And
paddle sports.
Paddle sports. But the town that I grew up in had like, it was a dynasty for tennis. It was like this long-standing thing. There was a family, the Nelsons, that dominated tennis. And so like my tennis coach, Don Wayne Nelson, played tennis for Grantsville when he was in high school. So Like it was this really long-standing thing.
Yeah.
And we were a small school, but we competed against all the other bigger schools because we were so good at tennis, and we would,
Just a powerhouse.
Yeah, really,
Paddle
really good.
sport powerhouse.
Really, really good tennis. And so it's senior year, the night before the state tournament. And I had a friend of mine, because everybody probably had something similar where you had, different groups of friends, different buddies that, these guys I do this stuff with. I had like my regular group of friends that I would spend time with and hang out with, and none of them were drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy that I had, this buddy of mine, his name was Cameron. He was somebody that I would hang out with periodically from time to time and just do fucking crazy shit with. And somehow he had gotten his hands on like an 18 pack of Coors or Bud or something. I don't remember.
3.7%.
Yeah. Well, it was even worse in Utah.
Yeah.
It was like, I think Utah beer used to be like 3.2 or something. Or it was really, really low.
It's like
alcohol.
flavored water.
Yeah. And we fucking got shit faced behind the middle school, just drinking behind the middle school.
Okay.
Like to the point where he is shitting on the lawn. Like we're so drunk that he's like, I gotta take a shit. And he just like disappeared over into the grass somewhere and took a shit.
He comes back, he's like, I don't know what happened. I took a shit. Yeah. And he's like, well, you never took your pants off, idiot.
And I don't remember, we must have driven. I don't remember driving though, whether it was me or him, but we get back to my house and just pass out in the living room. And at the time we were remodeling the house. And so we didn't have any carpet. The carpet had been pulled up. And at some point in the middle of the night, he pisses on the middle of the floor because he's so fucking drunk, right? He doesn't even think, he doesn't know where he's at. And the next day he like goes home and everything. My mom was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, what? Well, yeah, sorry, Mom, we were drunk. Like, yeah, it was. Yeah. She's like, he pissed on the fucking floor. It was the whole thing.
And now the OSBs just soak that in. Yeah. And it's just, you're always like, anytime you lay in that spot there's some kid right now with his head on that spot of that house, of that floor.
Right. Yeah. So, but I think that was the first time that I got drunk, and then totally hungover the next day to go to the state tournament. And I blew my knee out that day running back to the bus to like get my Walkman, my Discman.
Yeah.
So I could listen to, right before the tournament begins, I blow out my left knee and then had to knee brace it up and take a bunch of ibuprofen and finish out the rest of the tournament and won.
There you go. Okay.
Fucking won.
Really?
Senior.
Lead with that. Because
right?
that's really all that matters.
We didn't just win, we swept. Oh. So there's 7 players on a tennis team. Okay. So you've got 1, 2, and 3 singles. So the best player is going to play first singles. Second best guy is going to play second singles. Can I do the math? Third singles.
Is that 2 teams of doubles?
No, that's just 3 single guys, right? Okay. 1, 2, and 3 singles. And then you've got first doubles and second doubles.
So 2 teams of doubles.
Yeah.
So there's 7 people.
Well, there's 4 guys. Jesus. We're not mathematicians. We're going to get so caught up in the weeds trying
Anyways, 7 guys.
7 fucking guys go up against another 7 guys to see who wins. And the way that it works is, so first singles wins, then you get X number of points. Second singles wins, you get X number of points, right? All of us won.
Gotcha.
So not everybody has to win in order for the team to take state.
Gotcha.
Right. The team can still take state.
Yeah. Okay.
But this was something that hadn't been done in 25 years in Utah, where all 7 of us won everything. And not only that, I think we won every game. Not every game, but every set. So it was like nobody lost anything.
Gotcha.
And it was
powerhouse.
Yeah, it was a lot though, because it was like I had to really step it up.
Your knee.
My knee and being hungover. And anyways, that was the first time I got drunk, or the first time that I remember getting drunk. But back to meeting Stephanie, because I'm going to take you down the trajectory of it all. Steph we both grew up in the same county and remote rural county, right? In Utah. But we grew up in separate towns. She grew up in like this small little mountain town, and I grew up in Grantsville, which was in the valley down below. We didn't go to the same schools. you know, we can think back, and we definitely had moments in life where we crossed paths.
Okay.
Because we had to have, you know, kind of thing,
Yeah.
where we were definitely at the same places around the same time period.
You're like, we went to the same mall.
Yeah, we probably definitely crossed paths a couple of times. That time period where I was working at the bar as the bar back, it was the only bar. Well, it wasn't the only bar, but it was the nicest bar in town.
Yeah.
So there's like 100%
Chance
Steph
that she
came
was-
in,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
she was there at some point.
She like walked by. She's like, oh, what's that guy doing? Guy's
But,
hideous.
Because my first marriage, fuck, I don't know if I actually want to connect all of these pieces. But
like-
what happened was we lived in another town or another city, and eventually moved back to Grantsville. And when we moved back to Grantsville, eventually that marriage fell apart for reasons that we'll get into on a different episode at some point, perchance. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I was doing like working at warehouses. I was driving forklifts. I was,
Are you forklift certified?
I am. I'm a marine fucking forklift driver.
Right.
I worked at this magnesium plant for a while, which was super interesting because it was like it's a magnesium plant.
Which
it's
is
like a fucking
super dangerous.
Dangerous fucking huge facility.
Magnesium
factory.
like murder people.
Really bad, like super dangerous. There'd be like clouds of chlorine gas that would just float around. You had to carry your mask with you because if you're walking around suddenly and you can't breathe.
Did you have a parakeet on your shoulder?
Didn't have a parakeet, but had all these different random jobs. And then for whatever reason, I ended up applying to be a corrections officer at Salt Lake County Jail.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. It was just like somehow that came across.
Better than chlorine gas.
Right. Better than chlorine gas, some benefits, regular, decent paying paycheck. So I become a jailer and go to work in the jail. And I didn't have like big hopes and dreams of being in law enforcement. It wasn't like my goal in life. Yeah. But eventually, after working at the jail for a little bit, I was like, oh, you know, I'm pretty good at this. I enjoy it. At least parts of it. Working in the jail was horrible. Like it was such a miserable fucking imagine. Job. It was really, really tough. But I liked being in law enforcement. And so I used the jail as a stepping stone. And then eventually I convinced the department that I worked for to let me be a reserve officer.
Okay.
Because it's this whole thing where you have to have like, there's two certifications. One's SFO, one's LEO.
Yeah.
And I was only SFO certified, which gave me, you know, this type of law enforcement capability, but full law enforcement officer, LEO certified. I didn't have that yet. So I could be a reserve officer, but that meant that I always had to have an officer with me.
Yeah.
So I would come out and I would work, and there was like no fucking pay. It was a volunteer position. And I did that for damn near a fucking year.
Wow.
Where it was like
just trying to
be like,
put
hey,
the work in, show them that you're like, hey,
definitely want to hire me.
Yeah.
I'm definitely somebody that you want.
I am a super
here,
cop.
right? And it got to the point where I was reserving so much and on such a regular basis where, I had to have a guy with me, but they would just like, they're like, yeah, go do, go be a cop, Craig. And they just kind of ride along with me as I would do stuff. And eventually I convinced them to hire me as an officer, but these motherfuckers would not. What I had to do was they wouldn't pay me. They paid to put me through the academy to get the LEO certification. Yeah. So I got the rest of my certification, but they wouldn't pay me as an employee during that time period. And it was like a 3-month fucking academy that you had to go through, because I didn't just go through a specific block. Yeah. They put me through the whole academy. So I had to cash out my retirement, which was very small at the time because I'd only been at the jail for a little bit, but it was enough income
that you could kind of
I could live on it. Yeah. And I was still married to my first wife. So I still had to take care of it, like still, doing all of those things and going to this academy. And like halfway through the academy found out that I wasn't actually like an employee of Tooele City. And they're like, yeah, you can't come here. Like you have to, like, this is only for, people that are being sponsored. And I'm like, well, I'm being sponsored. But so then the city was finally like, fine, I guess we'll fucking make you an employee and pay you. So like halfway through the experience, they finally like made me an employee, and I finally got paid. And it was just this fucking nightmare joke. But the point of it was I jumped through like every hoop imaginable in order to become a police officer.
Yeah.
And then finally became a police officer. And like the very first week of being a police officer, because part of that process is, you know, we're taking you around and we're showing you the different things in the city. Like this is
the good coffee shop. This is where the best donuts are.
Yeah.
I'm totally kidding. For all of our friends that are LEO.
I'm not kidding. There's definitely that too, right? There's not a mistake that the police department was next door to a fucking donut shop. And it was a great fucking donut shop. But it was, you know, the different, you know, this is where the shop is. So when you got to get new tires on your car, this is where you take it to the shop. And you go meet the shop guys and all those kind of different things. And part of that process is going into dispatch and figuring out what dispatch is and meeting dispatch and all of that process. And that just happened to be the fucking week that Stephanie started working. So I had been on, like, I can't remember exactly what the time frame was, but it was very much close to where I was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ahead of her. And then she had just started. Like she was still in her regular clothes. Yeah. She hadn't even gotten to the point where her uniforms had come in or anything. Yeah. And as soon as I met her, I was just like,
there we are.
That's the gal.
That's the gal right there.
And so we joke and think about all the different little, you know, because she's got a whole story of what took her to that position and to that spot in her life. And it was like we both had to do a ton of work to get to that place in our life. And I mean, you know, we're always in the right place at the right time. We're always right where we're supposed to be, is how I believe in life and how I believe things. But I get such a kick out of those moments where it's like, had not all of the stars aligned. Yeah. Right. And it's also just like, you know, I could have, it was just really beautiful, but I don't know. That's all I have.
It's good. It's solid. No, it's solid.
Podcast over.
I think, I mean, there's so many things that you can just watch about how things are interconnected, right? And how there's just this continuity of things and this trajectory of path of life and all this stuff. And the coolest part about it is you don't know it until it's happened. Right. Right. You can't pre-plan. You can't look at, you can't do any of this stuff. Like I never knew that I was going to, like, Jamie's like no other woman I've ever met in my entire life. And I mean, literally, this is the worst thing in the world. For our male listeners, I think you guys will really get this. For my wife, she's heard me say this a bunch. For our female listeners, turn this off. But I remember sitting down, having that first meal that we like, and we had known each other for a while, but like not known each other. We just knew of each other. We had seen each other and having breakfast. And I remember I looked at her, I was like, "You're like smart." And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And I was like you, like a career, and like you went to college, and you're like an intelligent human being that can have like a regular conversation. And she's like, the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I had never dated anybody like that. I just hadn't really ever. Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I dated a bunch of strippers before I met Steph.
There you go. Listen.
A little bit different of a clientele.
I'm not going to say that I don't think I dated any strippers.
I dated 2.
Really?
Like, it wasn't like, are they? No, 100%.
100%? Yeah,
100% strippers.
Yeah. No. Dated a lot of... Yeah.
Anyways, wives are amazing.
Yeah,
we
wives
love our
are
wives.
amazing. Yeah.
Man, so lucky that we found those
100%. 100%. I don't know where I'd be without this. Yeah. But I think it's really cool that like you can look back and see how all this stuff is connected.
I think about that with us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Series
because
of
how you hated me.
Is that the story that you've got?
No. But somebody told me, like, yeah. Or did you tell me, or somebody who said like
we talked about it on the podcast.
We did talk about it.
That was all my own shit.
Yeah, you were just like, yeah, fuck that guy.
Like, I'm constantly in this fucking weird place with men where I'm trying to figure out.
Don't know if you want to fuck them or fight them.
No,
that's just a Marine thing. That's what we do.
It's this struggle between trying to figure, like, I feel like I'm so awkward when it comes to friendship and when it comes to, and the truth of it is I'm really not. I'm just in my head about it.
Yeah, I don't think you're awkward.
And I'm so uncomfortable at times, I should say, obviously, not all the time, but I'm so uncomfortable being myself that it's hard for me to feel comfortable around people and around other men, especially guys that I'm trying to like be friends with. And so when we first met, and
you weren't trying to be my friend.
Well, it was a shitty time in my life as well, right? It's the move, coming here to Tennessee. It was so much stress and so much emotional turmoil that I was under and going through. And I very much wanted friends. I very much needed a community of people. I was looking I was actively on the market looking for fucking friends. I'm like, who's going to be a buddy?
I'm on this website, adultfriendfinder.com. And it's, I don't know, I get weird messages.
I keep trying to find somebody. I don't know what's going on. And, but I definitely didn't hate you. What you triggered inside of me was the actions and behaviors that I don't like about myself when it comes to how I relate to other men. So you sparked parts of me that I was trying to heal. But that's the beautiful thing, is that's what you did, right? That's the beautiful thing, is you give me the opportunity.
On your medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 100% the case, dude. Where that, I believe that's what happens in relationship, right? That's what happened when Steph and I met. That's what happens, where the shadow creates this opportunity for, you meet and you connect and this beautiful thing starts to happen, but you also spark each other's shadows. You spark each other's stuff.
Yeah.
And so you have the right mix of whatever it is to spark the things inside of me that need to be healed. And I had the opportunity to either, repeat the same shit over and over again and go through the same process and have some sort of like clusterfucky friendship that doesn't really work out. And then I'm just like, fuck that guy.
Clusterfucky.
Right?
Yeah.
But instead, I was able to, in some ways, and have continually over the course of the last, year and a half that we've known each other, been healing some of those parts healing some of those things. But I think about what took place in our life and what took place in your guys' life to drop us in fucking middle of Tennessee.
Right.
And suddenly now this is where we're at.
Here we are. Right. I was actually talking about, and I don't know, because my memory is dog shit for numerous reasons, but I was talking about what I believe to be our first role. Now, I don't know if it was our first role or our second role. I remember it was the first submission, I think, that I caught you in.
Okay.
And it was that electric chair.
Okay.
Right. And we were on the big mat. We were going. And I got you in the position, went deep half, got electric chair, and I held it and I looked at you and you were like,
"Oh, we're going."
Yeah, and I was like, and I kind of looked at you like I'm not gonna put pressure on this. I know I have it, and you were like, "I'm fine. I'm gonna get out of it." And I was like,
do you think that was our first role?
I don't know. I
feel like it was probably, like you said, first or second
role, yeah. And I remember looking at you, and I was like, had you in this position. I'm like, no, I know you can't get out of this. Like, I've done this move 175 times now. No one's gotten out of it. You're not gonna. And you were just like, I got this.
I'm getting out of it.
I'm gonna get out of this. And you like tried to move, and you're and I just like put a little more pressure, and you were like, no, I'm fine. Okay. And you were like, and you have it as a friend. You do this like, yep, yeah, you got that. That was good. Fuck you, And but I don't know if it was. I think you had said like it just wasn't a move that you were super familiar with, and you just didn't know where the pressure was going to come from. But I remember you were just like, all right, fuck that guy.
I'm super familiar with that move. That's a good move.
It is.
It's a move that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time, because we don't fucking know each other.
We don't know each other.
Right?
And now you did know I was a lowered ranked belt.
Right.
Right. Because I think.
Yeah. I don't put a lot of, for me, I don't put a lot of, my jiu-jitsu has never been belt based.
No.
It's never something that I really.
You also knew that you had 20, almost 20 years of jiu-jitsu experience.
Yeah.
And you knew that. I think even at that, I think I was a white belt.
Well, you weren't a white belt. Fuck off. You weren't a fucking white belt. You're not telling the fucking story from the perspective of, I was a white belt.
I don't know
anything. I fucked Craig up.
That's right. I fucked
You
Craig
weren't a
up.
fucking white belt.
I might have been a blue belt. It was a brand new blue belt. Hang on a minute. When did you start coming to Athens Jiu-Jitsu?
It was, let's see, it's 2024 now. So it was 2023, January 2020, January of 23.
Okay, so I started back. I got my blue belt in November of 22.
Okay.
And because I had my neck surgery in September of 22.
Okay.
So like 4 months after I had neck reconstruction surgery, I fucked you.
I don't know why you want to tell this. But I remember that roll.
Yeah.
Because it fucked my knee up.
Yeah.
What happened was you get me in that position, because normally what happens is, like, as soon as I get caught in something, I slow way down.
Yeah.
I'm just like, cool, I'm going to slow way down, because one of two things is going to happen. I mean, yeah, I'm probably going to have to tap, right?
Yep.
That's definitely a possibility. But what happens oftentimes is guys won't go to the spot where they need to go.
Yeah.
And I can just
Wiggle.
survive and get out of it. So I was just seeing, okay, yeah, you caught me. Big deal, whatever, you fucking caught me. And I was waiting to see what you were going to do next.
Yeah.
And I knew what my leg could do. I knew where I was at, all of those kind of different things. And I should have just fucking tapped. Should have just fucking tapped.
You're like looking at me to do something. I'm waiting for you. I'm like, I know where this goes.
And it definitely tweaked my fucking knee. And you hurt my knee. You broke my knee.
I didn't break your knee. I didn't break your knee. Listen.
But that, I mean, you haven't caught me in that position since.
Well, I haven't done it to you since.
Yeah, that's what it is.
To be 100%, I don't think I've done an electric chair in a while.
Yeah.
It's not a move I shoot on a lot.
Yeah.
There's so many more sweeps and stuff from that deep half that I've been hitting in my butterfly.
I decided last night that I am taking like 3-4 weeks off of all physical activity.
Yeah.
Because
of your calf.
I'm so fucked up.
Yeah.
It's not just the calf.
Do you want to like talk some more and heal on some of that stuff? I fucking love you.
I'm spitting in your fucking coffee. My wife brought you fucking coffee. She put your fucking sugar in it. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed Bravemendare. No, it's funny.
I say all this with love, 100%, right? Like I'm just.
But it truly is, like, we're joking about my calf and the injury and the emotion attached to it.
Totally.
But I 100% believe that my left leg specifically is connected to something, meaning not like to my hip, right? It's not my knee bone.
It is connected to your hip. I don't know if you know this or not.
But it's definitely something so the left side of your body is going to be the feminine side of your body. The right side is going to be the masculine side.
Really?
So my ankle, my joints, my knee, all of that area of my body holds significance in regards to what I'm healing through right now. I'm going through massive trauma healing in relationship to into the relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is correlated and connected to that.
Gotcha.
And so it's no surprise that that's the part of my body that I keep hurting over and over and over and over again, because it's something that I'm not looking at. It's something that I'm not addressing, or it's something that I'm looking at and I'm aware of, but I'm also not doing anything to take care of it.
Gotcha.
And so
you're aware of it, but you're like disregarding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so last night I was at class, and I mean, I was just teaching, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't even fucking, there were 2 fucking guys there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, it's not outing anybody. I mean, they were younger guys, they were younger belts. So it wasn't even like difficult or challenging or anything like that. I'm just rolling to have fun, right?
You're like, what are you doing?
Just playing, just having fun with it. It was cool though. It was one of those young guys that's like hungry as fuck and strong and just like, I'm gonna try. And like in the first 30 seconds, it was a 1-arm choke where I got it in deep enough and I couldn't even get around.
Yeah.
Because he was fighting and struggling, but it was just the
right. You're like, I'm just gonna
I'm just going to squeeze this muscle a little bit for you.
I'm gonna flex my thumb, and that's enough.
And but anyways, I decided that I'm not dumb. I am just like, I think and I say we because I think a vast majority of men do this, where our body is something that we abuse and use and don't really
100%.
You know,
we don't take care of it.
We not only don't care about it, but it's like I don't even think about it in a sense of the only time that I think about my body is if it does get injured and it stops me from doing what I'm being able to do, right? It's something that I've just consistently, like right now, it's not just the calf. I've got this thing in my neck. Earlier when we were talking about like, you know, going to the doctor and everything like that, I'm fairly certain if I went to the doctor, they'd be like, what is going on with you? And I'm like,
you need a backiotomy.
Yeah, totally. And that's part of the reason why I don't go, right?
Because you don't want to hear.
I don't want to hear it.
That like, you need a backiotomy.
Right. My knee definitely needs, I mean, do I think I would benefit from a knee surgery? Probably. But I don't want to do a knee surgery. I want to do like all of the fucking good shit that they now do where they put in like
stem cells.
Yeah. Give me some of that shit in my fucking knee, right?
We could go to Mexico.
We could go to Mexico. A road trip. bravemendare road trip to Mexico.
So if the Mexico, if you're looking for sponsors.
If you own a shady clinic in Mexico and you're wanting to get some sponsorship time on a podcast,
we'll totally talk about
and give us some stem cells for our knees.
Right? Because I could totally go for some of my left shoulder.
All of it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited when all of that stuff just becomes easy. Right? And the norm where, you know, I can run down to Walgreens and grab a fucking EpiPen of something. Fucking give me some of that fucking shit.
Or whatever, right?
Because that's what my body needs. But on top of that, I'm just going to take like 3 weeks off.
That's probably a better.
And I'm just not going to.
Yeah. I wouldn't don't go like full absent.
Well, I'm still going to like.
I would move around.
I've been trying to just. I'm not going to just lay in bed. Like we're not ending this episode and then I'm going back to bed. I'm going to be active. I'm actually going to, because I've been thinking about this, where I'm going to devote, you know, the next 3-4 weeks to yoga.
Okay.
Yoga is something that I know is so incredibly beneficial for me, so helpful, and all those different reasons. Your neck, shoulder, you're impinged, your fucking asthma. You just need some fucking yoga, right?
I thought, is that what it is? Yoga's gonna fix it.
Yoga fixes so much stuff.
I like yoga.
Yeah, it's not just for your body.
Listen, the few semesters of yoga I took in college, my favorite classes by far I've ever taken.
Yoga.
Yeah, it was.
I can't imagine why.
Well, it was great. Every yoga class I've ever taken, it's always just
fucking
been
loved it.
Wonderful.
Did you go to college? I didn't know you went to college.
I did some college. Yeah, you know,
graduate or
not yet. We're working on it. We're on a 30-year plan.
I got one of them special deals.
Yeah, right. It's part of my like. It's so hard because I don't have like I wasn't great at school. Phenomenal at tests. Like you give me a test.
That's a fucking bullshit story.
It's not a bullshit.
It is a bullshit story.
Fuck you. It's not
because
bullshit.
You've told so many times that you're in the advanced classes.
Yeah,
you're
totally.
a fucking engineer. You're telling, you know, so the whole idea of you're telling yourself this story that you're a bad student or you're not very good at school. That's a fucking lie that you've been telling yourself your whole life. You're super fucking smart. You're super fucking capable. Smart. Right? The reality is, I think the same thing. Where I'm just
lazy.
Like, I don't even think it's that.
Okay, well, just let me say it. Something.
No, I'm telling you what you need to think. We're reprogramming your brain right now. I think it's that system's so fucked up.
It is. It's
Do you
not.
know what I mean?
So that okay. Maybe let me rephrase.
Yeah.
The fucking. I don't do well in the
joke.
current design of the education system.
100%.
Right. So I would go with that because I can.
Super smart.
I wouldn't go super
capable. Smart. Everything you've ever put your mind to, you've accomplished.
Yes.
You figured out, like, you were telling stories about rebuilding fucking toasters when you were a fucking kid.
Yeah.
Like, you're intelligent. Period.
I know how to, thank you. I know how to fix things. So I don't do well with, like, homework. I'm not.
Homework.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
That's why I don't fucking do it.
Exactly.
I'm test taking, I'm solid. Like I can half hear the information and no problem, right? Really good with like recall and all that stuff. So great with testing. And I don't have a problem with college. Like, I think college is great. It just, like, I was in college and then I kind of got a little sideways after like 2 years, and my buddy got me to join the Marine Corps, right? Like, I wasn't the guy that was in high school, like, I'm going to go into the service. I had really never thought, other than 9/11, where I think most young men were like,
not this guy.
No,
No.
I was.
I had kids, though.
That's true. Right, because you're
I was
really
a
old.
stay-at-home dad with a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, so that's probably different. I was not.
I remember watching it like we were watching morning cartoons or something.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then suddenly that
was a
started
thing.
happening.
Yeah, but I was able to. So I was in college. I joined the Marine Corps and just did that, and then for all the way up to like my last year in the Marine Corps, I was just going to do that for 20 years, right? And then get out and like, who the fuck cares? And then when I got out, I was like, okay, I'll go to college. And I started going back to school, and then I decided to open a gym. And I still went to college. I switched majors because I had been mechanical engineer.
I want to keep listening.
Yeah.
No, you're not doing it. I have to piss so fucking bad.
Okay.
And rather than just rap real quick,
Yeah.
I'm going to push a pause and we're going to pee. Or I'm going to pee.
You're going to pee.
You don't have to.
Okay.
If you don't
Well,
need to, but let's take a piss break and I want to hear your college.
Cool.
Cool? So, pee break over.
Pee break over.
Back to college.
Back to college. So, like, I started college with mechanical engineering, and then I went mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, back to mechanical engineering. And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, because I flew in helicopters, I went aerospace engineering, back to mechanical.
Yeah, you sound like a real dummy.
Yeah.
These are all real
And then I switched
dummy.
to business because I had a business, and like that all made sense. And then when we went to Australia, it was really hard to do those like classes online. And I say really hard, that's really a cop out. I just didn't put effort into it because I was
doing other stuff.
I was doing other stuff. I was living in Australia, hanging out, and just like whatever. And then I came back and I was like, yeah, I'll get into this. And then I got a job, and then like that was going well. So I've gotten to where I am without that 4-year degree. But I know that I still need to like go complete that. Like I actually a few months ago got on the phone with my last college, National University, which is like a fly by night college kind of University of Phoenix kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool alma mater or whatever you want to call it. Thanks. And they were like, yeah, you've got like half a dozen classes left. And I was like, I got to do that. Right. And it's nothing hard.
Will that give you your bachelor's?
That'll give me my bachelor's. And then I've already been looking into and talked to somebody at UT they have a, it's like an executive.
That's University of Tennessee, right?
University of Tennessee. Yeah. Not University Utah. Yeah.
Well, the listener, right?
Yeah.
UT.
UT. We live in Tennessee. So UT, the Vols, they have like an executive MBA program for people that are already like executives in businesses and stuff like that. And it's an accelerated program. So that's my goal is I'll finish my bachelor's and then I'll get my MBA. Really just to have it at that point. I don't know. I'm sure I like as somebody who doesn't have an MBA or a bachelor's, sounds cool.
Right?
I don't
know. I've got a story around college. I literally in this last 10 minutes of the podcast,
the interview,
I was thinking about, because I want to, and I guess we need to talk about this so that we're on the same page, but I'm learning more about you.
I'm learning more
about you. We're sitting here and we're hearing each other and all the beautiful things that this is. But I'm also, what I at least believe is I'm hearing all of these stories that you've been telling yourself.
Uh-huh.
And they're not how I see you. They're not how, it's almost like I can hear when they are these tales that we have been telling ourselves our whole lives. There's things that...
Why do we have to go into all this?
Does that make sense, though?
It totally makes sense, but I don't want to talk about it.
I know, we don't have to talk about them, but I bring it up because I want to point them out to you.
I get that.
When I hear them.
I get that.
And I guess I need, like, is that okay?
Yeah.
It's one thing for me to point out stuff.
I'll tell you how I feel after you do it.
But like this story around not being smart or just being a dumb, meathead or whatever. Like you've got this.
I'm a knuckle dragon meathead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
you're going to ruin. This is my whole game.
Well, think about it this way, where I think, because I have them.
Yeah.
I've got all of these weird fucking stories that I've told myself, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the stuff that we've talked about before, where I'm trying to peel back those layers and understand what actually is the truth. And the truth I'm learning is really just whatever the fuck I want it to be.
Yep.
It's the perspective that I decide about myself.
Yep.
And I don't want to be telling myself those stories anymore that are based off of maybe previous experiences, maybe things that might have been true at one point, but I'm learning more and more that they're really not even that. They're really just kind of things that I heard or were told, or, like, for example, my brother, Brian, he's the middle brother. He's in between me and my oldest brother, Adam. Him and I would fight all of the time. And like the narrative was, I would tell him, I can always kick your ass.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever, I'm always going to be smarter than you. So it's like, it doesn't matter how tough and strong you are. I'm always going to be smarter than you.
Okay.
And I'm like, it doesn't matter how fucking smart you are.
I'm always going to
be able to kick your ass.
Yeah. Nerd.
And so, right. But the reality is I'm smart.
Yeah.
I'm not dumb. I'm
you're
not
dumb.
uneducated. I'm not, I'm able
you have
to.
gray hair.
I do have great hair.
You got gray hair.
But I've grown up with this narrative around Brian is the smart one in the family.
Gotcha.
Brian went to school and became a mechanical engineer. He's been an engineer,
he seems smart.
Right? But he's been an engineer for GE for the last 20 plus years. And I'm obviously this guy, right? That is not a mechanical engineer. I think so. I think so. I'm really smart.
Yeah.
But I'm learning more and more those stories that I've been telling myself aren't true. And I also have other stories that, like, I have other perspectives on who I am that I remember thinking growing up, be like, well, maybe like, for example, I feel like I'm this creative, artistic person where I feel like I'm actually really artistic in nature. And I mean that from the perspective of like the way that I see the world is through the lens of like, imaginary, creative, imagination, artistic. Like that's how I feel most in alignment with who I am.
Okay.
And I remember thinking that way when I was little, to some extent. I don't have the same construct around it all and the same vocabulary and verbiage.
We're a little older now.
Yeah. But that idea that I'm like a creative person was shut down, was minimized over time. From older brothers, from life, society,
teachers,
whatever the fucking, you name it.
The man.
Yeah. And therefore that narrative then shaped my reality.
Yeah.
But the truth of it is, that's actually the truth of it. So I'm trying to bring that part back out and embody that part and be like, oh, I'm not this dumb idiot that doesn't know how to do things. Right. Because I have the same story around like, I fucking sloughed the vast majority of the time.
Yeah.
I did everything that I could to not go to school.
Yeah.
But, when it came time, I could, get A's and B's if I really wanted to put forth a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
But I hate fucking homework. I never fucking did any of that stuff.
Yeah.
All of those narratives and stories. But again, it's like, oh, I just didn't work in the system. The education system sucks and always has sucked. It's always been a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And the reality is I'm this very creative, artistic, talented, smart, capable, fully functional person. And that's the narrative that I want. That's the story that I want to create. And it's not even just an imaginary story. I think that's the reality. I think that's the truth.
I think those are all 100% true for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, not me.
But
no.
Well, that's the thing is like you've got a narrative around who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing the parts of it
that you're like, that's not true.
That I'm like, that's not true, dude.
I know.
And I know Jamie is going to be like, yeah, that's bullshit. That stuff you're telling yourself.
It's it's the mechanism that I use to say like, hey, if I tell you that I'm dumb, if I play the big dumb guy, you expect less of me, right? And then it allows me to wow you later when you're like, if you look at me and you're like, look at this guy. Like, I look like a big dumb guy, right? And I wear the polos to like step me up a notch, right? But then if I say something that's intelligent, or if I come back on a project with some insightful thoughts, or if I recall, when the Boston Massacre was, or whatever like that. If I talk about these things, you're like, oh shit, like look at this guy. Like he's not a big dumb animal anyways, right? So then I get to have this other moment of like, you're really seeing me, right? But if I play the big dumb animal, you expect less.
Do you expect less of yourself
Probably.
when you do that as well?
Probably.
See,
I don't want to talk about all this stuff right now. Can we just like...
We can just drink coffee and talk about getting drunk and
there you go.
Keep it easy.
There you go. The magic mushrooms and your buddy shit in his pants. And no, I mean, I think that's a whole probably another...
Do you think about those stories? Do you think about that? Like if we think about it just from what you described, a big dumb animal.
Yep.
Do you think about ever challenging that internally within your own self and what comes up? Or is it just out of sight, out of mind, whatever? Yeah, I'm not going to think about it.
I don't actually think I'm a big dumb animal.
Okay.
Like,
what do you actually think?
I think I'm I'm a really good problem solver who can learn anything and has the ability to take any topic, any subject on and become an expert. Maybe not an expert, like I'm not, living with the chimps, but a more than baseline knowledge, and can speak, intellectually in that arena with a little bit of effort. It's not hard, I think about even to the aspect of like creative welding and like the projects and stuff that I've been working on. I haven't touched my welder I think the last time I touched it was in like 2008. And
that's what you call your penis?
It's my stick welder.
I haven't touched my welder in years.
So that's what you call your penis. I'm going to drop that on you later. But I just was like, all right, cool. I haven't been into metal fabrication in a decade and a half. And through a little bit of just kind of like, and I was able to brush back up on it, pick it all back up, and was like, okay, cool. And we're back into this. No big deal.
Yeah.
And then I got to quickly learn all of the new things that are going on and how that transitions to today versus what I knew from back then. So I don't actually think I'm a big dumb animal. I just like to play one on TV.
But the idea of playing one on TV, like I think about that too, where we get like pigeonholed and positioned into these roles that, again, it's culture, it's society, it's our family, it's our upbringing, it's all of these different things that it's like, that's the box that you have to stay in.
Yeah.
And that's where you suddenly, cool, I might not like this box initially, but hey, it's the thing that I was given. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what people have told me I am. So I just have to get comfortable in this space and make the most of it. And I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to play a big dumb animal on TV. You get the opportunity to create the version of who Ben is that is in most alignment with your wants, your needs, your desires, who you truly feel is there. Mm-hmm. And I think the more that we tell ourselves these stories and these lies and these half-truths that maybe, we've carried over the course of our entire life, that's how you perpetuate those stories. Nobody's telling you this anymore.
No, yeah, nobody's
coming up and being like, dude, you're a big dumb fucking animal.
I can't remember the last time somebody was like, yeah, well, you're just like a big dumb fucking animal. I'd be like,
nobody is telling you these things anymore. You're the only one that's doing it.
I know.
And it's keeping you stuck in a pattern.
It could be.
Not could.
You know what?
It's 100%. And I only speak that with such certainty because I relate to it so much. I feel like that's been the case for me my whole fucking life. Telling myself lies over and over and over again that have kept me stuck in all of these really shitty patterns and truly have led my life down paths that it's like, how did I get here? Well, you fucking did it yourself.
Yeah.
because you're believing things from the past that aren't really true about who you are, and you're not actually taking an honest look at like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually this thing now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to push you more.
You know
on
what?
The podcast.
I'm just going to fucking push you. Just get away from me, you big meanie.
Because I think it's important, dude.
It is.
And because I love you.
I know.
Is really
I know
the
you do.
truth
I love
of it,
you.
And I know that there'll probably come a point where you're like, okay, I've had enough of that. And we'll probably, because I definitely go overboard with stuff. It's always way easier for me to be like, look at your stuff, not my stuff.
Yeah.
Look at you, Ben.
Don't worry, Craig. I'm gonna think about this for the next couple of days. I'm gonna be like, all right, I've reframed. Let's talk about Craig now.
Well, I'm hoping so, because you're going to see, like, it's what I was saying earlier about like we show each other the shadow parts, right?
Yep.
There's going to be parts of me that spark your stuff.
Yeah.
But you're also going to see me differently than anybody else does.
Yeah.
Based off of our relationship, right? And I want to know what that is.
Yeah, you've sweated in my mouth.
Feedback.
I want to see that.
Oh, it's wonderful stuff, dude. This is so fun.
I know that. Listen, I don't want to like take the important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I deal with this, right? Is I throw humor at it and movie quotes and talk about you sweating in my mouth. I agree, right? I definitely need to probably do some realignment with how I speak about myself, how I see myself, and how I present myself to be more authentic to who I am in this day. So,
yeah, that's a very hard thing to do.
It is. So,
yeah,
I'm just going to read a book. Got a couple books I'm going to read this week. So
I think that'll do the trick. That's all you need to do is read a book or two.
Books,
folks.
Books.
Pick them up, read them, set them down, forget about them.
Put them on a shelf. Like, I have this
go.
book. I mean, literally, and this is, I mean, we have these things up here. This is one of my extreme ownership, right? Jocko, if you're listening, I just want you to know, is this a booger on this? There's like a booger.
I don't know where that came from.
It was probably Steph. But like those are the things that I like. I like books.
Yeah.
But you should read Extreme Ownership. It's not you.
I don't read very well.
No?
I shouldn't say that. I can read just good? Fine, but reading isn't how I learn the best.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I really like reading.
I do too. I enjoy it, but
I'm really bad at it.
I've learned over the years that it's just, anyways, fucking
books.
Brave Men Dare. Subscribe, go rate, review, go follow us.
Smash the bell.
Smash the bells. Comment.
Tell it, what's I don't have a good one. I thought I had like a really cool, insightful comment below with what you think about
boogers. No, but if you want, you can hit us up. Our email address is bravemendare@gmail.com. So if you ever have topics that you want to hear on the podcast, in future episodes, we're going to be having some guests come on the podcast as well. So if you're interested in being a guest, or you think of a good guest and you want them to come on the podcast, hit us up. Or reach out.
Even like just something, if there's something that you've been thinking a lot about and you're like, man, like what is somebody else's opinion on this? You know, is this something that other guys think about, right? Is this something that, am I just the weirdo who's thinking about this thing in the corner? Or is like, does everybody think about this? Because there's really not a lot of topics I think that we will avoid too much.
Well, I think we'll go at all of it for the most part.
Yeah, probably.
Right? And that's part of the intention behind the podcast is having those conversations and talking about those things that oftentimes I think we're all experiencing as men.
But go unsaid.
That go unsaid.
Yeah. Or you feel weird. I don't want to ask my friend, hey, what are your thoughts on, the internal trauma I have with my alcoholic father and my asthma?
Right?
Right.
But that's next week's episode.
That's actually what we're going to dive into.
Exactly.
Healing asthma.
Healing asthma.
Later, bud. I like this one.